We're live. Oh, hold on. I can't hear you on the live. I can't hear you on the live.
What about now?
Yeah, you're good.
Nice. And you don't hear me twice, right?
I was hearing myself a little bit. It's hard. Hold on. I was hearing myself a little bit. It's hard.
I just changed something for that. Maybe so. Try talking again.
No, I can still hear an echo from you.
From me or for you?
Both of us, actually.
Great.
Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna mute you on my phone real quick, and then we'll talk, and I'll see. All right. So I muted you. So let's talk for a little bit and just see how it is. All right. So I muted you. So let's talk for a little bit and just see how. Oh, Nora said double audio, so it's not just me. Okay, I'm gonna try and find headphones. I'm a scoundrel. All right.
Okay, let's try this.
Doubling. Hello, Roundnet, Chris. Chat, can you hear me now? I heard I was not being heard. Can you hear me, Dylan?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
How are we doing, chat? Are we double audio right now? Or... So my headphone battery though is at 31%. I don't know how long that's gonna make it, so
Nice.
you know. I didn't know you needed headphones for these things, man.
No doubling.
My audio is quiet. Okay, I will try.
I turned it
Am I
up.
quiet to you? Okay.
I turned it up, yeah.
I didn't know you
Talk
needed
a little bit.
headphones for these things, man. Hello.
Is that
I'm
better,
also gonna...
friends? Chat?
Also, Fitzy asked how he got it. He's going to come in, so we'll talk for a little bit first, and then I'll tell him I invite him on Discord.
Nice. We're going to give some more time for some people to get in for funsies. And then we'll get started chatting. Go to dashboard. Oh, duh. There's my dashboard. Nice. Now I can see who we have.
Awesome. You ready to kick us off?
Sure. Welcome, everyone. Us good 9 people so far. Yeah, okay. So as you can see on the left, we have an agenda. I'm Andrew. This is Dylan. We're going to call some people in a little bit to talk about the number 2 and number 3-ish. But Dylan and I are just going to chat about the Worlds announcement being postponed. So, Dylan, how do you feel about it? I mean, I think we all know, but what are your thoughts?
I saw that you gave me a plug on the layout. Follow Venom Roundnet.
Oh, yeah, at the bottom. Yeah, go follow.
I appreciate you.
I don't have any. You can follow my socials, but they're not important. It's just my life.
Yeah, I think I posted my reaction to it a few different times, and throughout the process of this, weird quarantine, I think I've been pretty vocal about it. But I think it's the safest decision for our players, and I think as a company who obviously sells product and goes to trade shows, but primarily their mission statement is rooted in developing a sport. I think player safety is. I can't really think of anything that's more important than that. So throughout this entire process, and I'm not just saying this because Lord knows, like I can get on the company Spikeable Inc. a couple times. But I just try and be very blunt about things, and I think that they did this super well. Like I think everything, Jack's announcements on when they were delaying, and the reasons why, and following, like whether it was the WHO or CDC. I think they did a great job of keeping players informed. Right. I think it's obviously a very difficult decision, but something that I really thought about after I even posted my reaction is. We got 18 people in here. Let's go. Even after I talked about it on Instagram, I thought of the other thing, which is like this event it takes a large amount of time to prepare for. Like it a lot of man hours, a lot of little things that people who haven't done events yet. Because I used to run a few Roundnet tournaments, spikeball tournaments back in the day, and it is a ton of work. It is a ton of work now. Our sport has grown so much in the last couple of years since I ran my last tournament. Like, I can't imagine everything that's going into it. So if it helps people to conceptualize it this way, think about like postponing Worlds is probably going to make it so that the event that we all pictured in our heads actually comes to fruition in 2021, rather than like rushing it and trying to scrape together and have some teams who elect to not travel. Because I'll tell you right now, I was not going to travel to Belgium if it was held, and whether or not Matt and I made the World team, I was going to go regardless, like at the beginning of the season. But as COVID started, like it was just not worth it for myself, and that's because I've talked about a lot. Like I am around a lot of high risk people, so I'm just trying to be very cautious, and I think there's a lot of other top players and players in general that feel the same way. So I think for so many reasons, like my personal feelings are this was the right call. What about you? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, super bummed. Just it like sucks that it's a reality, but I'm totally down with that we get a chance to put on an even better event than we could have in 2020. Like now that we have to wait, a whole nother year, we get that much more time to plan, that much more time to get other things approved or like things like that.
Yeah.
Because the sport grows so fast, and like we've talked about in the past, on the Facebook group, especially like this year, last year, that there aren't as many rallies at the pro level, blah blah blah, all these kinds of things. But maybe another year gives time for rallies to come back. Even though I don't think rallies are dead, defense is still a thing. I promise. Just look. Anyways, but it also an interesting thing about the postponement of it. All of these countries that have been getting better faster are gonna get like even closer to, I would say, US's level, because like it's pretty well known that like the US is probably going to win worlds because we've been around the longest and we have the highest skilled players. So our national team is just going to be that much better than most countries, supposedly, but we don't know. But next year, who knows where, like, say some countries are like, all right, in preparation, we're going to come over to America and start training with you guys or start playing with you guys. Like Tom Rogers has come over here, and there was a couple from Czech Roundnet, right? I think that they came over here, and then Canadians are always coming down for our tournament. So I just think that this just gives like other countries a chance to even the playing field even more, and I'm freaking excited for closer matches in bracket.
Yeah,
I don't want our closest match to be in finals. I'd rather it be in round of 16.
I get you. I mean, two things there. Number one, that's such a great point. Like, I didn't even consider the fact that delaying it by a year because our sport is so new, it will allow other countries to catch up. And I think that it's something that I talked about recently on the Facebook thread, whereas I'm totally with you. Like, U.S. is hands down, like, R1 through 5, I think it would be a sweep at this point. Yeah. However, if you look at, especially like Canada's 1 or 2 team, and I mentioned this in the Facebook, I think they would have a shot against our 4 or 5 team.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen, I mean, Strong Flush is as just such a great example. Both those players are phenomenal. They beat Global Beans, which was a pro team this year. They beat them at regionals, so it's not like it was some small tournament too. It was like a very important tournament for Global Beans, and Strong Flush beat them. So that's just a small example on how, especially like Canada, is just starting to catch up. So I think right now we're still in this weird spot where it would bet a lot of money. However, come next year, I think that it might be a little bit closer. So that's a great point. Also, things out like my super great, so like I might be like cutting out from time to time.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think your internet's kind of struggling for a second.
Does it cut out my audio when I do that, or just? Yes. Oh, okay. That's a bummer.
Just a little bit. That's okay.
Okay, well, and then my last point, it's definitely a really good perspective to have when you think about, like, looking at this from a positive standpoint. I think it's really challenging for people who are looking forward to it, but with every opportunity, everything that happens in life, like there's always positive opportunities that you can get from it. Mm-hmm. And I think if as a community we focus more on those positives, the fact that, oh, the matches are going to be closer, focus on the fact that, oh man, no, like this will be an even bigger event and we'll have more time to prepare, more time to make it awesome. Like focusing on a positive mindset, I think like that's all we can do, right? Like it really, as much as I understand it, people are being bummed or sad or disappointed, holding on to that really doesn't do a whole lot for and as a community in general, I think one thing we do such a great job of is being so positive like all the time, and I just want that to continue. I think that even if your feelings are that this shouldn't have been postponed and shouldn't have been canceled, which is of course your opinion, that's totally fine. I just think that just doing the best you can given the circumstance in terms of your mindset is probably the best, because just from time to time, not from a lot of people, from some people, there have been questions about, oh, La Liga is starting up in Europe, and this sporting, this sport is like starting soon. Like, why isn't Spikeball? Why isn't Roundnet? And I think that mindset is not really productive at this point, right? Like, nothing we're gonna do is gonna change the mind. And I think the company was just placed in a very difficult situation, and I think like so many other sporting events and events in general and businesses, they are just choosing the more conservative side right now for player safety. So just trying to focus on the positives, I think. Okay, we got some great questions here. So before we get our first guest on, who's going to be Fitzy, actually, I'm gonna invite Fitzy on. We're gonna go through some of these. At what point in that scenario would a nation like Canada channel their national pride and go miracle on ice to beat the dominant nation? Yeah, pretty high, I think. It's, again, because we have had this would have been our 7th, I think, official year, at least what I deem official, starting in 2014 being like the first official year with official regionals and nationals. I think it's definitely possible, especially because let's just say, and I have no idea, let's just say that this season doesn't happen. We don't have a single tournament. That'll mean there will be at least, what is that, 15, 16 months before any competitive SRA tournament has happened. Think about the development that can happen in players in 15 or 16 months. Like, we are already seeing, and Andrew and I have talked about it, like kids coming out with like the most ridiculous reverse cuts and tweeners and just insane setting and touching. Like just think about that, man. Think about if people focus more on developing their skills, resting their bodies for 15 months, like that. Like, honestly, anything can happen. Anything, especially if some things you talked about, which are like teams come across to the United States and like just spend like a month like.
You're kind of struggling.
Am I?
Yeah, take a second. All right, you're
better
good.
Now or no?
Yeah, totally. You're good.
Just let me know.
Just every once in a while, take a second, and it'll be good.
Okay. Oh, we got Burrows in here. Awesome.
Another thing, like I think you were saying this anyways, but like another year gives players, like we've already seen 6 I think players go play internationally. So CS has gone, Preston has gone to other countries to play. Harding went. Oh, Buddy went as well to that one Denmark tournament. So like and then the stories, I haven't talked to anybody that was there, but I've heard from people like Preston that are like the people that he is teaching in clinics and stuff, like the people he's playing and these tournaments like are getting exponentially better just by playing one time against an American. They're like, holy crap, the game is completely different. Let me just do what you do, And the more that like we get to show off what we can do to other countries, the more they're gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna replicate that and get like so much better so fast. That's like
Well, I was going to say, that's a great point, especially because it's different seeing videos versus in person, right? Like you learn so more from in person, and even if it's a day, I mean, I can resonate with that. Like 2014 Nationals, like warming up the day before against Pete McCarthy, I had never seen anything like Pete McCarthy, and he's like the person who like taught me, hey, this other hand that you have, you probably need, so like, that's just a small example of like, I was warming up with him. I was like, I didn't even know that this was a thing. Like, I didn't like, I didn't know that players could do this or this or this. And I think that it's one thing to watch it on video and be like, okay, that's kind of cool. But if you think about any sport, it sounds weird, but really think about it. Next time you're watching like basketball or football, the sport looks so much slower watching like on your TV versus playing in person. So like people will see Preston and then they'll like try and receive his serve and they'll be like, what the heck? So okay, cool. So I think that's our spiel on Worlds. Just overall, it's a good thing. We're gonna have the event. It's gonna be awesome, but we just gotta be patient for a little bit. And I think we're both on the same page about that. Disappointed, but I think it's the right call.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice though that it hasn't happened. The first one hasn't happened. The first one is postponed because now we're like, we don't know what a Worlds is like right now, and so it's not like we had an experience last year to be like, oh yeah, Worlds was so great last year, and then like it get canceled, go the next year. But now it's like, now just the first one's gonna be even much better. That's what I'm excited about.
Oh yeah,
just so much better.
True. So, do you want to have a guest on before? Let's do our list like last or something. Let's just have a guest come on, okay?
Cool. Yep.
How have I cut out since you talked?
Nope.
You told me last, or okay, good.
Not really.
It seems like it's a little bit better. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm gonna try and get Fitzy on here.
Ooh, good question. While you're doing that,
Yeah.
question from Wyatt. In your opinion, should Worlds be an annual event? I like that question because
Really
I don't
good
know.
question.
Like, we all would love it, but also like at the same time, like the development of players like around the world, the development of countries, like each Worlds would be like exponentially different if you like put a year in between each Worlds event, which is like, like that would blow my mind to see like, a country come out of nowhere, in 2 years and destroy it.
Yeah.
But also at the beginning, I think it might be better to have it annual, but that's just more hype, more content, more general.
I do this for.
You're good. Oh. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out. All right, we'll see if this works. Preston. Oh, Discord. How about now? Is it working? Hey, there we go.
It's working.
All right, let's go back, and everybody can see you. Welcome to the stream. Nice.
What's up, guys?
Cool.
What's up, Fitzy? How's it going, man?
Hello.
Going pretty good.
All right, well,
Okay,
now
so-
we're... Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I was gonna say let's just jump right into it. So,
Yes, please.
we have not revealed our lists yet. So, Fitzy, I wanted to see. Let's just get right into it with your top 10. We're gonna go male players. You can go in any order you want. You can go 10 to 1 or 1 to 10. Hit me with what you got.
So,
wait,
and this
sorry.
is live on Twitch too right now, or is this just us
Yes.
three?
Yep, on Twitch.
Cool.
You're live. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry. Well, also, when breaking down your top 10 list, what is tell us what you weigh most, I would say, because like Dylan and I have our things of like, do we weigh tournament finishes? Do we weigh more than eye test skills, or how big of a factor is nationals performances
Right, yeah.
over the years? So just run us through what your priorities
Your
in coming up with the
priorities
list
and
is.
coming up with the list is.
So I would say my priorities are a mix of, your level of play and also your accomplishment. Because you can, have a great year and accomplish a couple things, but if it's not that longevity either, I think my top 10 consists of players that have been playing for more than, I would say, at least 5 years for each player. So you have to have a list of accomplishments throughout, several different seasons that you've established yourself as an all-time great, as well as, you've won things, you've been not just winning, but you've been on a number of podiums because, you can't, even if you're the second best team there, you might be losing to the number one team who could be, two of the top 2 players ever. So it's not just pitchers, but I would say, coming up big in big moments and being known individually as a player, as a game changer, not just being carried on a team.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say my top 10 is broken into 3 tiers. The first tier is 3 players, and then another 3 players, and another 4 players.
Cool.
And actually, like honestly, if we were doing top 20, I would still have that exact 3 tiers, and then 11 to 17 right now. I have another, I guess, 7 players that would be in that next tier. So it's convenient that I didn't have to dip into that next bowl and pick one random person out. And I'm going to say lamely for the 7 to 10, my order can easily be argued and changed because I'd love to hear other people's arguments. And that might influence my eventual order by the end of the full conversation. The top 3 in most people's lists, a lot of people's eyes, are Tyler, PJ, and Skylar. And the order, a lot of people could have Sean and make it 4. Me personally, I mean, Sean kind of backing out of playing a lot in the last couple years has made that decision as a number 4 for me, or in that 4 to 6. So, to me, if you look individually at number of the pitchers for each one of those guys, I mean, PJ has the most with Tyler like short behind him. I think it's 35, 29, and then Skylar has 22. Can't really blame Sky, not as many pitchers back in the day. I would say it's tough to rank because I'd say Skylar and Sean as Chico are kind of the goats of the old set, and right now CS, Tyler, and PJ are kind of the goats of the new equipment because that transitioned kind of right around that same time that Chico is kind of fading out as being a serious player, them getting older, moving on to other stuff, and then kind of Tyler and PJ taking the reins. So, my argument is, I think that since Tyler has won number 1 player of the year 3 straight years, with 3 years ago Tyler and PJ tying, unless you've had personal success more against Tyler than PJ and you feel more comfortable, I think Tyler is slightly above PJ, but I think it's really neck and neck. And that's where it just comes down to individual. PJ does have more pitchers, but I think Tyler's put himself in more scenarios in tournaments where he kind of has to be the underdog, while PJ is paired up with a lot of really good players, and they've won. So it's like, say, Clark and like PJ playing and they win, or like PJ and Skylar playing and they win. Well, I think Tyler's put himself in more scenarios where like he plays with AK or Annalise or like somebody random, or you know what I mean, like he hasn't put himself as many tour stop scenarios to win. He wants to really challenge himself individually. So that's how I would put that in the same perspective. I have Skylar as number 3. I think arguably he could be moved above both Tyler and PJ with the right argument. I think just looking apples to apples at like how good do I think they are as players, I think Tyler and PJ are both better than Skylar over the last 3 years. I think Skylar is better over the first 3 years. Tyler and PJ have accomplished a little bit more, glassware as well as individually. I mean, Skylar is going to be all-time great, and he just keeps playing, which is incredible, and I love that. But for me, he's number 3. Could be seen as biased, but for me, he's 3. So I'll move on. I kind of elaborated a lot, but I think it's important to lay out the reasons why.
Just like a quick
4 to
note,
6
though, like
are Sean, Preston, and Jarrett. For me, I have Sean at 4, just based off, I mean, Chico, they were great. They were untouchable for a number of seasons in the same way that CS is seen as untouchable. It's the same way. So I have Sean being number 4. I have Preston number 5. He has great nationals accomplishments if you really look at it on paper. Nationals as 2 guys was really his first big win, if you really look at it. I'm pretty sure I asked him and he said 2 guys had never won a tournament before winning nationals, which is insane. They had a heck of a day. It came together on the right stage, nationals, not just, a random Grand Slam, which can have a similar amount of talent. So They came together at the right day. And he's obviously a top 5 player the last 2 years and arguably top 3 player the last 2 years. Probably not arguably, but literally, if I don't have the list in front of me, but yeah. So he's my number 5.
He's been a top 3.
Jarrett's at number 6. I mean, incredible resume. I just looked at the pitcher count that Andrew had shared a while back, and I was really surprised to see he has never won a Grand Slam, but he's basically accomplished, other than winning nationals, he's been in the picture he was the number 2 team, just like I see how Handsome Beavers was the number 2 team for a bunch of years. He's always in that conversation. Whenever he pairs up with somebody good, he's going to be, he's not going to lose in the quarters at any tournament. He's always making it to the podium round. He's always giving teams a run for their money. And there's only been a handful of serve-heavy players that have been able to beat him. So then we got 7 to 10. This is kind of all jumbled for me. So my 4, I'll lay out the 4, and then I'll try to put them in an order. I have Buddy, Troy, Devin, and Dylan. Could be argued that we could put one extra player and make it a bowl of 5, depending on how you look at players. But I think those 4 have either accomplished a certain level, have played for long enough, have been feared to be played against long enough. Like Devin, obviously Strange Embrace for how many years, just being a top player. He didn't play too much individually, I think, without Jarrett, but he wasn't even seen as a player that was being carried by Jarrett at all. It was one of those hilltop situations for a while when it was interesting to know who you thought was better. For 2 full years, it was kind of undecided of tournament by tournament who's kind of pulling who. Buddy, all-time athlete. Number 2 team for probably 3 years running. Even in 2016, where Handsome Beavers wasn't even a serious team, they beat Safi, who were the number 2 team at Nationals. Just come in, beat Safi, beat the number 2 team, and then they lose to Strange, who they play all the time, and it's a great game, and obviously all-time players. So I think if Buddy still played more seriously, he'd have an argument to even be in that top 6, but since he doesn't, he kind of plays off and on. He just shows up at regionals and gets top 3s.
No big deal.
I can't take him out of the top 10. You guys can hear me well, right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Who didn't I touch on? Troy obviously has one of 6 players who's accomplished everything. He's won a tour stop, a Grand Slam, a regionals, and a nationals. That's something to show for. Incredible player. Not so much on the individual standpoint, but he's won everything he's gone into, and he's been on top teams basically every year he's played. Even as Chubby Bunny, they were in the mix. Even when he played as 2 guys, they were a top 5 team. Teamed up with Kenny, top 5 team. So whenever he's playing, he's in that same conversation. And then Dylan Fogarty, even in off and on retirement and injury, numerous tournament wins, pitchers to count, Grand Slams. Dylan, have you won a regional? 2. Oh, I thought it was 1. There we go. So it's always more than you think when it comes to looking at Dylan's trophy case, but incredible player. On the personal level, I've never been a great competitor against him, so I always see him as somebody to put just above on the list. So yeah, that's my top 10. That last 4, if I had to say something before I could change my mind, I'd probably put it at... It's so tough. It really is. Because even my number 7 could be number 10 after a good argument. But I would probably say Buddy, Troy, Dylan, Devin. That's how I would put it. No. Yeah. Maybe Buddy, Dylan, Troy, Devin, but that's how I would put it. I have a big respect for Buddy. Some people might not put him in the top 10, but I think he has as good a case as any of those next 4 guys. So yeah, sorry if I talked too much, but big conversation, a lot of opinions.
For sure. No, that's a good list.
Yeah,
there's 2 players on your list that I don't have on mine, which is in that 7 to 10 range, which I think is like the most, or 6 to 10, 7 to 10, whatever. I think that's where the most controversy is in like the top 10 players of all time. Because like 1 through 4 is like pretty like all right, okay, you can make the case for 5 players. I think for 1 through 4, whereas like 5 through 7, is like a little less, but like 7 to 10 is.
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
agree.
there are 9 or 10 players. That might be a lot. Um, you know, 7 players. I would say they could
Yeah.
probably fit there with a good argument.
And for those who are curious, my 11 through 17, and I might be forgetting somebody, so it could be a bowl of 8 or 9 if I'm forgetting, but I have Joel, Kenny, myself, Chris Hornacek, Caleb, Drucker, and Bryce. Those would be my next 7. Very respectable. I think is that next tier of, they're not on the same level in my eyes as that Buddy, Troy, Devin, Dillon, but they're right below where you're either missing an accomplishment, longevity, always been in the mix but not been able to take that next level. Yeah, that's for me.
Cool.
Love it. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate your takes always.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So am I signing off now? Is that how it works?
Yeah, and then we're gonna do like our list at the end. So we're gonna have a few more people come on, and then we'll kind of. I'll
Cool.
put a recap in SRA so you can see like how.
I'll
everyone else
hop
is
on and
performing.
watch the rest of the stream from Twitch.
Cool.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
See ya. Hey, guess what? Okay,
Yeah.
he figured it out. Okay, you might have to do the Discord thing.
I got it. I got you. It's okay.
Okay. Before we have someone else on, I do want to kind of, now that he's gone, analyze some of Fitzy's choices, and just the notable things that stuck out to me, because of course there's a reason why I want Fitzy on. I think he has one of the most analytical, creative minds in Roundnet. I think that his perspective is really important, and I think something that he said that like kind of hit me is that like you and I, guess we're not getting to our list yet, but you and I both have talked about Troy and how we personally don't view Troy as highly as some of the other players in the community. I'm even checking like the chat box, and most of them have Troy in there. And just to give you guys who are watching a little bit of a reason, I believe, other than this last year where Kenny and Troy gave it to Ovi, they gave it to Ovi. I think I've beaten Troy every time. I personally think that because he's so on and off, like I guess you could say like the same thing about me, but I think he's so on and off with the sport, and because I have not had like that big of a problem against Troy in my past, like I don't view him as highly. Like, to be clear, he is on my list, but I guess it surprises me, the public perception. But Fitzy said something that was really, really cool, which is Troy's won a tour stop, a Grand Slam, a regional, and a nationals, and that is a powerful statement. So that is a really good point. And then Nora with a great point. Troy is so good, just not flashy. I think maybe that's a little bit of me, because one of my things is I'm very high on the eye test. I've talked about this several times. Like, the eye test is really, really important for me, which is when I get to my list, I think it's very indicative of my list. Yes, I go by nationals performance. Yes, I go by wins, but the eye test is always been important for me. So I think that was a really good way that Fitzy put it, though, because sometimes, because he's not flashy, I feel like Troy's accomplishments might kind of go by the wayside, and you don't really
they go under the radar
as much. Yeah, so I mean that's a really good point. So overall, by Fitzy, I thought really good list. Got to be honest though, Devin is kind of a weird choice for me, because he wasn't even in consideration. I think that there are a couple people that Fitzy put on and Fitzy referenced that I've thought about for that 8, 9, 10 slot, but Devin was not one of them. And that's not anything against Devin. I think just, Strange has won pitchers. They've gotten great podium finishes at nationals. But I just think his list of accomplishments doesn't really line up with some of the others.
And length of time.
Time.
Like, how long has Devin played? Like, how many seasons did he play? Like, he just played as Strange and then, like, stopped playing. And, like, I'm not saying, like, oh, you suck for not playing. I'm saying, like, all of the other players that we're considering have, one, been around for a long time and have continued to play. Like, there's only one person on my list that, which we'll get to later, that hasn't played in the last, like, 2 years competitively, I think. But everyone else, 2018, 2019 seasons have been competitive and can play. But like, I value that, like, because our sport is so young. Like that's what I was gonna say to Fitzy earlier. Is like it'll be interesting to have this conversation in 10 years when like we've had 17 to 20 years of a sport being around, but we've only had 7. Like very very few years. Like I don't know the way we value like people saying Skylar and Sean were like good back then, but they're not good now. Like when I'm thinking of players who can be considered for like the best of all time, just like they have to stretch, multiple years. Like it can't be just a little bit to me.
No, I agree. That's a great point. So here's what I want to do too. I think this would be kind of cool for some engagement with chat. We got 25 people in here. I want you guys to put on a scale of 1 to 10, obviously subjective, how strong you think our guest list are. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like Fitzy nailed it, and 1 being like, I don't know what his deal was. I want you to put it in the chat. I'll start off. I think it was an 8, so I'm going to put 8 in the chat. So I would love just to see how the people viewing, how they followed Fitzy's list, how they liked his list, and then we're going to get some engagement from chat, of course, at the end. I definitely want to have some open discussion. So seeing a lot of 7s, seeing a lot of Gasway 6, that's fair. But
just because 2 overall, out of the 10 for me, a 5th.
Yeah, sure.
The list.
Sure. I think, but overall, a lot of really great. Yeah, a lot of 7.5s, which I mean, I know. I view Fitzy. Oh God, Preston. This is why, man. This is why we don't want to.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so Ben, interesting choice. Fitzy goes in with it too. Interesting choice with 3. I think that I agree with the statement. I don't agree that that's a 3 warranted, especially because he put him in the 10 slot, right? It's not like that he put Devin at 4. Like I think even though it was not fringe for me, I think there's an argument to be made for Devin. I think especially when you talk about eye test and freak athleticism. I butchered the heck out of that word, but so I think that I agree with the statement, not with the vote, but I would expect nothing less from Fitzy. I mean, I knew he was going to get high scores, so that was awesome.
Cool.
Preston, if you're in the chat, and are you available right now? If not, I can message some people on Facebook and see if they're ready to jump in. And then, guess what? Can you just add them?
Yep.
Cool.
Should be able to.
Actually, let's just add Preston. He said he's ready. So, did he send you his Discord information?
Yep. I believe
okay,
so.
Cool. So, just add him when you get a chance. I'm gonna add the other column so we can get Preston in on here. And I'm trying to think like other logic. I thought Nora referenced it. I thought his argument about Tyler being number 1 over PJ and Skylar was solid, especially the point about the mashups.
That lighting's terrible. Hold on.
What?
Especially the point about the mashups was really good, because I think people think about PJ all the time as being like super, like he can win with anyone, but at the same time he does choose really good partners. So like,
right.
I think there's a reason behind that. So that was a really good point for me. So I super enjoyed that. Okay, Ben just misheard like where he put Devin in his list. He thought he had Devin at 7. Okay,
all of men to a 5.
Can't have great inflation.
Lowest score.
Okay.
Lowest score so far.
Right. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Is it decent? Is my video quality?
Your video quality's trash and your audio's really loud, but that's fine. You're here. We're hanging.
I can just turn off my video. I don't know why it's bad.
I don't know.
I mean, It's not that bad. You're just a little choppy. All right, so we're gonna hop right into it because I want to get to a lot of people and I don't want to
Yeah.
make people here all night. So
Let's go
whatever
fast.
order you want. Oh, he's got a little bit of
A whole board.
drawing board perhaps. Yeah. So either 10-1 or 1-10. List your players. You can go into it a little bit. Like I'm not just saying you just name them and go
I'm going
on.
into a lot of it. I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. Whatever
Okay.
you want, buddy.
You know me. I don't like to overthink things. I just like to get it done. So right off the bat, first off, Fitzy's takes I thought were pretty accurate. I liked it. Devin, I didn't really understand it, but that's beside the point. I think I value a lot more than just simply the eye test. I think I value a lot of just, I don't know, obviously, as you play, you get to know people personally, you get to know strengths, weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. Play with a lot of these players. Getting right into it, I think Undisputed is myself. I'm just kidding. I think Undisputed is PJ. Even on a bad day, PJ, has gotten like second in tour stops. I can't think of too many finishes that he's had to where, you're like, oh my God, PJ's awful. PJ's bad day is still a good day. He's got the most pictures. He's shown time and time again that he's just, that when it comes around, he's a freak. He can do things that most nobody can. And literally from starting off, I mean, he started about when I started playing, like 4.5-ish, whatever years ago it was. And I think almost instantly, it wasn't like, who's this kid? It was like PJ's, top 10 player from the get-go. So I think that speaks highly to him. Anyway, go into detail too much why. For my 2 and 3, I think a lot of people might put Skylar above Tyler. I think Skylar of kind of like the Vince Carter of Roundnet here. Just in terms of like when he came out, like obviously he was dominant, he was great. Obviously he's more dominant than Vince Carter was. He was like more like MJ. But then the longer he played, Skylar's not bad by any means. Like he's still up there in the top 25. For reasons that he's legit. He can do a whole lot, whatever. But I do think he fell off pretty hard. Like we beat him in 2016, and then I felt like it was kind of like not the end of Skylar, but like like it was at first it was like Skylar Bowles, and it was everybody was like Skylar Bowles is a legend, he's a god, and then slowly but surely you got a little crack in the armor, and then it was like, oh my God, he can be beat. So for me, I mean, I'd throw Tyler up there above him. Tyler has always been a force to reckon with. Fitzy obviously as the rookies he was pretty good. Me and Kit beat him, but that's beside the point. But I mean, he's always been a top team, always been a top competitor, always been stud of a guy. And then what really speaks to me, I don't tell Tyler enough how good he is or how much he's done for the sport in terms of his work ethic. But I mean, he was the whole reason why the cut serve got popularized and became a thing. And for me, that holds a lot of value because he took the time to actually learn the game and grow the game, on his own behalf. And then he was a dominating force for, a year and a half or so, where everyone was like Tyler Chiswick. I still thought PJ was better, but that's just me. Regardless, I think Tyler solidified himself into the second spot with 3 national championships, with a more stacked, advanced. Field actually knows how to play the game. Skylar was a great player when no one knew how to play, and he just happened to play more, and I think he knew the game better, whatever. So I'd throw him a 3. So PJ Ty, I think, kind of lock in there, and then Skylar 3. And then for 4 and 5, like Fitzy was saying, there's different tiers. I do think it'd be, like, I'd put me or Sean. For me, the Chico legacy is like it's more impressive than what I have, I think. But at the same argument is that he fell off and then Sean kind of disappeared. And you could say, oh, but he played the other, like last year in San Diego, whatever it was, and I played with Carter Clem and he beat us. I'm like, by no means am I saying Sean fell off skill-wise necessarily. He's still an athletic freak. If there was the top 10 athletes in the history of Roundnet, I'd put him up there. But I mean, he just hasn't really played, and I feel like he was Chico, and then that's that. My argument for me, I mean, I think individually, I think as a team, I think I've done pretty well. I don't want to talk too much about Wabi Sabi, but the fact that we were in the finals to this day still blows my mind. I think Jarrett today is a 100% different player than he was when we were Wabi Sabi. We've talked about it. I have no problem. But I mean, Jarrett's serve, Jarrett's hitting, back then was not amazing by any means. You know, I thought I'd create a lot of pressure, whatever. So for 4 and 5, it's hard to say. I think if you went strictly off history, I'd say Sean. I think if you went like off the whole picture in terms of just longevity and like consistency in game, whatever, Sean took a hard fall when he stopped playing. That's kind of my only big thing. So whatever, 4 and 5, I would put me above Sean personally. Obviously, I'm biased, and my last name is biased, but that's the point.
Got him.
It's not BIAS for those people who are like, oh, well, didn't know that. I know, fun facts. And then you get into the 5 to 10 range. I have a tie between Troy and Jarrett initially, but then like I started thinking about Buddy, and kind of same argument for Buddy though. It's like that's why I'd throw him beneath Troy and Jarrett, only because he stopped playing. It's hard to say like, oh well, if he kept playing, he would have been. But obviously, I think Buddy, in terms of top athletes, and I really value athleticism because a lot of the game up until the past year and a half have been strictly just like go out there and be athletic. He stopped playing, so he kind of dropped off. He almost beat Chiswick Showalter with me in Norway, or in wherever the heck we were.
Denmark?
Denmark, yeah. So I think I would throw Jarrett as a 6, just based off strength, based off Wabi Sabi, based off, I almost said sexual healing, flexual healing. I mean, he's just been consistency. I mean, like, out of all players that I've seen play, no play, whatever, he's continually improved, consistently improved, as long as we're using that word. He's consistently podium, he consistently won. He's never been the takeover guy, but he's always been, fulfilling his role. And sometimes that means carrying, sometimes that means assisting, sometimes that just means winning. And, by far he's done that more than Troy, which I'd put them about the same in terms of skill-wise, but Jarrett has a better record, So I'd throw that out there and say that's why Jarrett's above Troy. Troy, like Fitzy said, I was thinking about, Troy's done it all. He's been around forever. I know when he was in the Southeast, like the Southeast was like the second best region, and then Troy left the Southeast, and then it became the worst region. And I know Troy loves saying that. He's like, I was in Southeast, You'll never hear him say it because Troy's quiet. But, amongst friends, I mean, it's a big deal. It literally was, the Southeast was like Chubby Bunny. And then all of a sudden Troy left and everyone's like, wow, Southeast sucks. And now, you got guys coming up. But for a while there, Troy left, Southeast left. Dylan, you can shake your head all you want, but it's true. So I would throw Jarrett, then Troy. I mean, in terms of mental-wise, understanding the game, people talked about IQ the other day. Regardless of what people say about my IQ, I don't really care. But Troy's IQ, that's where, honestly,
Something happened.
A lot about just everything.
Stop
But he's not paying attention to it. What?
We can't hear your audio. Hold on. You
broke up a ton.
You broke up a ton there.
You can't hear my audio?
Now we
It's
can.
just really, now it's better, but it was just really like flaky for a second. So whatever you were saying last like 10 or 15 seconds, we just didn't get it. Hello?
Try turning off your video.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, turn off your video.
That's what I was gonna. Bro, why is it not next to everything over there? Give me a sec.
You're good.
Where's the turn off video thing? Because I see mute, I see audio, I see everything, but no video.
It should be like right in line with those
Oh, right
buttons.
there.
It should be
Yeah,
Nice.
No, it's
Found it.
okay. How's the audio?
better, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, where did I leave off?
you were talking about Troy's IQ, which I think is a good point. So.
Oh, yeah, Troy's IQ. I mean, because I never really thought too deeply about the game. I was just a big dingus who was just charging hard and making big plays. That was all I cared about. But like Troy, attentive to detail in terms of just like how people are hitting, like how their stance is, their hit, what defenses to run on, what people, that type of stuff. I think gets overlooked a lot because Troy's not one to call out what he thinks, what he sees. Unless people directly ask him, he'll talk to you about Roundnet stuff forever. And that's kind of what got me hooked on just like learning the game. I know Tyler loves to call people out and say, hey, people don't know crap unless they're from Long Island. But Troy's not from Long Island, neither am I, and I think I know a crap ton about the game because of Troy's vision into who does what, how do they move, whatever. So I throw him at 7 based off of just his accomplishments in terms of uh, just his skill, in terms of what he's done. Obviously, two guys. Troy was the better half of that team, and taught me a lot about the game. So I have to throw him up there because he's my dude. In terms of 8, 9, 10-ish range, I have 3 people. I definitely don't have Devin. Nothing against Devin. But hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I have Buddy at 8. I think Fizzy talked about Buddy a bunch. I don't really talk about Buddy a bunch. He's an athletic stud. I think if you throw him in the mix nowadays, he's still a top 10 player. If he learns how to, serve receive a little more, because he just doesn't get the exposure. I don't need to talk about Buddy too much. He's by far probably the, top 3 athletic humans to ever play Roundnet, just in terms of his skill set. And he was Handsome Beavers, and he dominates whenever he plays. The 9-10 slot, I have a circle around these names. I got Fitzy, Drucker, Dylan. It's hard to not put anybody in there. The biggest 2 that point out to me are Fitzy and Dylan. But I'm gonna talk about Drucker real quick, just because Drucker. I mean, Dylan, you and I have talked about this. Drucker has the capacity to win a tournament by himself if he's on. It's just that simple. Like his high is high as anybody. It could be because he literally is higher than everybody. He's like 6'8". But it could also just be because he's a freak, and he's been playing for longer than anybody. He knows the game just about as good as anybody. You put him on any team with any top player, he's going to be a top 5 team. He's won a ton, he's played a ton, whatever. It's hard not to say him, but at the same time, I think the other 2 guys, Dilly and Fitzy, I think have better arguments, and that being Fitzy being not an offensive beast in my terminology, and still being on a top 5 team forever. I don't know where Anchored's at right now, maybe like 6, 7, 8, 9 or something. But Fitzy has always been a defensive mastermind and has always maintained a pretty steady win streak, a pretty competitive edge on everybody. Obviously, as the rookies, he was a stud. Longevity of play is huge to me. I think it's hard to overlook his accomplishments in winning, but also just the fact that he's steadily, always podiumed, always been a force to reckon with. And again, what's more impressed to me is that he's not, slinging, 5 aces a game. He's out there getting maybe, 2 to 3 tops, but he's still competing with the greats after playing for like 6 years. So that's kind of crazy to me. So I put him as like the 10, and then at the 9, Dilly. I would love to throw you with like the Troy Jarrett area. I've always think you're wildly impressive, but I think you've steadily improved over the time. Obviously, pitchers wise, you got a poop ton. Just in terms of technicality, how you handle the game, how you play, consistency of play. Obviously, there was a year or 2 when you're playing with OV. Chris, not the most consistent human alive, but you still, did fairly well. You won many tour stops. I remember you came to Santa Monica one year and you won, and I was just mind blown how you guys took it. Because there was Strange, I think there was Handsome there, I think there was us. It was just a bunch of studs there, and OB came on top, and I wanted to play with you from day one because I obviously think you're a stud. You know what you're doing. The only reason against you is you retired for a bit. You're in and out, questionable in terms of like how much you play in this past year and a half. But regardless, you're always in the question for like top 10 player, regardless of if you're playing 5 years ago or today. So it's hard not to throw you at the 9 slot and then Fitzy. And then I'd put Drucker as like an 11. Longevity of play again is the biggest thing that speaks to me is if you're consistent throughout your whole career. And again, that's why I threw Skyler below Tyler because I think Tyler from day one has been pretty consistent on the up and up until like this past year he fell off a little bit. But I think that's just because obviously it was working and didn't want to change things. But that's my moderately, decently long short take.
Dope. Love it. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. I'll get out of here unless you need me.
Everybody rate Preston's list.
Oh shoot, I gotta go back on Twitch. If anyone gives me less than whatever, I will call you on HDR and talk crap. Okay.
All right, guys. If you're at home watching, again, same thing. We're gonna put recap the list in chat. We do have a command for the list. I'm making a master list, and guess what? I also just decided this like last minute. We're gonna do women's another day just because
Okay.
I want to give them a full stream. I think there's a lot to talk about, but we just have so much to talk about. So
Right.
we're gonna do open today, and then guess what? I can do like women's next week or something like that. The exclamation point. What is it?
Top players. Exclamation point, top players. 2
Hey, I'm out of
P's.
here, boys.
See you, Preston.
See you, buddy.
Later stream. Kevin Bailey, you got nice teeth.
Okay. Random shout out.
So, couple little thoughts from me before we get into another commenter. I have to change the accessibility on the Google Doc. I don't have it open for everyone.
Whoops.
My bad.
It's all good.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll do that in a second. So, initial thoughts. Number one, way too West Coast heavy. I'm sorry. Like,
There's so many West Coast players.
I just really struggle with a lot of, especially OG West Coasters. It's just my list looks so different because Sean just puts the top 20 players in the West and then Tyler and PJ after that. Like, it's just a lot of West Coast. Number one. Number two, for me, I don't really understand his logic about Skyler. Like, I know he put him at 3, but I don't think Skyler's fallen off. That it's hard when you, and you and I talked about this, Gasway. It's hard when you bring on a top player because in Preston's eyes, everyone is so much less just because he's so good. And I think that like
who can he beat right now? It's like
right. So when Preston says like, oh, I beat Sean and Skyler in 2016, so like, yeah, but like they still dominated that year. They still I know they lost 2 tournaments, Santa Monica and Atlanta in the middle of the year, but they won like everything else. They dominated Birch Hill, So like I see from his lens how Skyler's fallen off, but like again, Skyler almost beat Troy and Kenny. Like Chris and Skyler, like that series. Just to get into it a little bit, guys, like Chris got an up and Skyler set him and Chris missed. I think he hit the rim or something. It was a tough play, but like that was the break to go ahead 19-17 in game 3. So like Skyler saying Skyler's fallen off, I just think is a little harsh. Other than that, he makes good points about Troy. We've talked about it a few times. I just don't view Troy that highly. And then Fitzy.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So Fitzy, I actually do love the logic that Preston came at this with, which is like, despite Fitzy not being known for the 2 skills that are most important in Roundnet, I think, which is serving and hitting, like the fact that he's still so successful and has won 4 pitchers and has won a couple regionals, and is always a top player is very impressive. However, a big one that we haven't talked about yet, and I'm going to reference over and over, is there's no way Fitzy's getting the slot over Hornacek for me. There's no way Fitzy's getting the slot over Drucker for me. And that's, I think, based on a little bit of eye test, but also he talked about longevity. I mean, I think people are a little forgetful just because Chris hasn't been super successful the last 2 years, but Chris has 12 pitchers. Chris won 8 titles in one season. That same tournament that Preston was referencing, that OV won, which is 2016, I've said over and over, that was not because of me. Chris played like an animal that day. And we beat 2 guys. We beat Handsome and we beat Strange in round of 8 semis and finals. And again, it was because of Chris. Like, he just has this another level that he goes to. And at the same time, I know I just said he's consistent. I know Chris is inconsistent at times, but his ceiling is just, especially in 2016, 2017, was just so high. So, only if someone doesn't even consider Chris for the top 10. I think, like, we'll get to my list, but little spoiler for both of our lists, we both have Chris at number 10. And I think if not number 10, number 11, 12, or 13, but past 13, like, I think he's got to be in the top 13, no matter what. So when someone doesn't even reference him, it shows that they're not really evaluating the sport on more of a look at the totality of the situation.
You kind of broke up there.
Recency effect. Oh, sorry. Is it better or no?
Better now. Yeah.
Okay. So I said, like, I just think he's so tunnel visioned on the recency effect. So, one other argument for Fitzy over Chris, look at how they play with partners who are much worse. Fitz performs, Chris doesn't. Point. I can't really, think probably.
You're breaking up pretty bad.
Best argument.
Did you hear that? You broke up through the whole thing. That response.
Am I good or no?
Yep.
Okay, so sorry guys, my internet here is really weird, but I said that's a great argument. Basically, I just said, like, Chris's mashups are not great. Like, but what I will say towards that, real fast, is you also have to think about, like Preston talked about Troy and how he's not flashy, but he's good. He's really consistent. I think you would absolutely make that argument for Chris. He's not super flashy. Oh, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought I broke up again because you were so still, and I was like, no.
It wasn't too bad.
He's flashy, but he has results. But because he's not super flashy, if you look at his mashup partners, Chris has not gotten a lot of really good mashup partners, and I think that's relevant to bring up as well. Like, he has not played with Peter John at shortstop. You know, he's played with Sean and Skylar and some of the OGs, but he hasn't played with Tyler at a shortstop. I know they played cream of the crop together, but that's just my little wrinkle there.
Yeah, we can talk about Chris in more.
Yeah, sorry.
I definitely have some things.
Reading these unbiasedly individual top player lists matter. Is there stats for number of tournaments attended to amount of podium/victories? Not that I know. That would require a lot of work. So
it'd be a nice stat to have, but.
Is there an ideal partner for Skylar in the 2021 season? Yeah, there's tons of players. I mean, I think Skylar is just, he complements people really well. I think he brings an element of setting and defense that sometimes you don't get with these players. Like, I'll call it myself, that I don't have a lot of variation in my game. Like, I just hit the ball hard. Like, you know, I think Skylar plays really well with those kinds of players, which is why I think him and Chris worked at times. Like, sometimes, like Utah 2019, it went horribly, but sometimes, like Nationals 2019, it went really well, and it almost was crazy. So tier for nothing. Okay, so I'm just reading some of these comments. Thanks guys so much for the comments. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna hop on and message some people. But Gasway, what are your responses towards like Preston, I know you put 5 in the chat, right?
Yeah, I think
Okay, so give me your thoughts.
so. Fitzy would be to me like towards 15 probably, I think. Like 15, 14, 13 range. Just because I think like rookies were good but continued to like semis seemed like the ceiling for rookies forever. I don't know how many pitchers or seconds rookies got, but I think that those first years kind of, and then like that paired with, I think like I like the offensive eye test for me. Like that's a lot of my consideration is like who can go out and win a tournament with a lot of people right now. Granted, there are two people that whatever, there's counter arguments. You could be like, oh, but what about this person? But yeah, I think offensive eye test is huge for me. Go ahead.
No,
do we have somebody?
I was just gonna say I definitely agree with that. We do have somebody. I'm going to hype this person for. We are going to have my good friend Frederick Hinkle on, and there's. I just want to say a couple things. First of all, if he's listening or whatever, I'll tell him when he's coming on. I think Frederick has one of the more interesting minds when it comes down to Roundnet. I think he's insanely dedicated, but also insanely analytical, which is why even though you would consider Frederick probably to be a newer player, and we've had pretty much OGs on this, I think the way he looks at the sport is phenomenal, and I think he's obviously Logan's done a lot for Texas. Like, don't get me wrong, Logan has really led the charge there, but Frederick's development of the Y Spike and A&M players has been truly remarkable. And he's just a grinder. He plays 3 times a week. He's improved so much since he started. And so I messaged him if he would come on, and he was like, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say. And so I just wanted to give him a little confidence going in, because I think I personally, Andrew and Gasway and I talked about this before, there are only a handful of people I really respect their opinions, and Roundnet I respect everyone's, but there are a few that I hold higher. Fitzy's one, Andrew Carter's one, but Hinkle is another. So I thought it'd be really cool to have a newer player on just to give his perspective, because it is a little different, right? Because he wasn't around for 2014, 2015,
right.
2016.
Like literally
so
CS era is him, and forward none of Chico Handsome,
Yeah. So we're gonna bring him on real quick, Preston. I see you in the chat. I think I've been to 150 tournaments, so that'll show you how old I am. Preston was like, "Holy poop!" when someone said they were at like 50 tournaments. I'm like, dude, I hit like 33 tournaments in 2016 alone. So yeah, that's a lot. But I think I would be curious to see how many. Where do you add Hinkle? Did you see him?
Yeah, he sent me a friend request. I thought I had him.
So he's the one that's like
Royal, right? Like, Royal guy? Yeah.
And then, guys, in the chat, I mean, I don't know the best way to do this, but as we go on, so we're getting into like the latter half, we might, after Hinkle, we might have like maybe 1 or 2 more. If you guys want to like have your own discussion and that's something that you guys could do now, or we could do it at the end, and Gasaway can kind of react to that. But there's a lot of people in this chat that I would love to hear their opinions on. The Mangoon, I don't know who that is, but Mangoon.
I think it's Payer, right?
It's Payer, right? We got Wyatt in the chat. We've got some other people. We got Ben in the chat. We got Ezra in the chat. Kevin Bailey. I would love to hear Kevin Bailey's argument. And so if you guys want to post and kind of discuss amongst yourself while we're on with Fred right here, that'd be awesome, and we can respond. So we're going to get right into it. Frederick Hinkle, as we said, it kind of was post-Chico era. So I think this is going to be very interesting to see what his top 10 is. And I would love to see some logic. Obviously, I already told Hinkle before he came on just to keep it brief-ish. But
yeah, try to roll.
a little bit of explanation is needed. So, man, hit us.
Howdy.
Hello. We can hear you.
My list is is kind of weird because, like you said, I came in later. So the first day that I looked up spikeball, I found 2017 Philly finals, and this insanely tall dude would step out really far and hit this thing over his shoulder called a flango, and that was Peter John.
Can you turn your video off? I think it's
Yeah,
it might be
your audio's a little wonky.
there we go.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Better, yeah.
Yeah, so when I first found this game, Peter John was destroying everyone, and then when I played Peter John, he destroyed me, and he's won literally everything. So for me, it's really easy to put Peter John as number one. He's kind of like, in my mind, the face of the sport. He wins, he wins, he wins. He was there, like 2015, 2016 Nationals, having good showing, even just like as this new player, doing well on the top list. So when I started looking around and watching old footage, looking at the old top 25 list, Peter John was there, and then on the new ones, he's there. So for me, it's just so easy to sit there and put Peter John number one. Now, following Peter John, I think Skylar and Tyler both have really, like, that argument is so close in my mind. I think for me, what really sets it apart is if you watch a lot of the footage and you watch a lot of the things that they do as individuals, I think Tyler Chiswick did a lot of things that were new. So 2017, Tyler kind of shows up with a lot of things that I hadn't really seen other people doing when I watched back in the old footage. So to me, it seemed that Tyler changed the game in a way that Skylar didn't, like with the backhand wrap, the backhand push, flick, and then all of these extreme hyper wraps and the cut serve, and then the cut serve push serve meta where he hits both hands. Like all these things that Tyler did so well and just changed the game. Like everybody plays to some degree like Tyler started playing in 2017. So in my mind, Tyler has to be second just because of how much he changed the game. And then it has to be Skylar. He wins, he keeps winning. The 5 regionals thing is just a ridiculous statement. You watch Skylar now, and his serve isn't there, and he still gets results. Like even today, without a monster serve receive is there. If you listen to Preston talk, Preston will talk a lot about how to drop your hips and let the ball travel on serve receive. And whenever I teach new people to play, I tell them don't let the ball travel too far; it'll get too far away from you. And Skylar just does that. He lets it receive a little too far and puts himself in weird spots to serve receive, and then makes perfect touches. And I don't know how he does it, and I don't know how he does a lot of the things he does, but his touch and his experience is just perfect. He still wins. Following Sky, I go Preston over Sean. This is probably my recency bias. I see Preston making huge impacts in the community today. I see him winning a lot. I see him winning any California tournament with any California player that he shows up at. On the SRA Tour, he wins a lot with Jarrett, with Troy. I guess the only one won with Troy, but the big one.
Right.
So I think Preston won it right above Sean. And then, of course, Sean at 5. He won. He won a lot. He won as 2015, 2016, 2014, 2015 Nationals, yeah.
Oh, Frederick, can you mute yourself real quick?
Can I mute myself?
Yeah, there's some weird static.
Just for a second, and then come back.
Yeah, we'll just skip it.
Can you hear me now?
It's like staticky.
Try to leave and come back, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
I took earbuds out.
That's a lot better for me. Chat, can
Okay.
you tell us how you guys hear it and if there's any doubling with no headphones in? Okay. Preston says it's better. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
And then for me, after Sean, I'm going with Buddy. I know a bunch of
6.
people have Jared above Buddy, but Buddy still wins. Whenever he shows up, he podiums. In 2018, Buddy decided to show up with Zach Zimmerman and beat Point Loma, and that completely blew my mind. When I had to go watch the games, and I did, and it was just Buddy being this unbelievable athlete who could just still win. And if you sit there and go, okay, he beats Loma, that's one series, that's crazy and all, but he couldn't do it again, right? And then in 2019, he shows up again with Zach and gets second, and I think it has to be Buddy at 6. And then after Buddy, I'll put Jarrett, Mr. Pro Set Box. Jarrett's been consistent. He keeps winning. I mean, Flexual, probably the number 3 team of the year. I mean, maybe them or Moctega, but it's so close. But I think it has to be Jarrett above Troy for my 7-8, and that leads me to Troy. Meeting Troy was actually really interesting to me because I noticed that Troy's approach to the game was a lot more, hey, let's understand how the game functions. Let's understand how we should play. Let's understand how defenses should rotate and optimally work together. And a lot less of, hey, I can hit this ball past you. And then you watch him play and you see the cut serve in 2016 Nationals where it's like, hey, I can just hit this ball past you. And you kind of get that he can do both things. Troy is also the only person on my list that I haven't played. So that was kind of a fun one for me because I ranked Troy, but I've never actually played against him. There's a lot more I'm sure that could be said about Troy, and I know Preston said some things, but my experiences with Troy were really eye-opening. And then watching a lot of his footage, it seemed to me that Troy just had shot selection that a lot of people back then didn't really have as well. He always seemed to be choosing shots that the defense didn't want. And I was really impressed, especially with some of his games from 2016 Nationals, where he just seemed leaps and bounds ahead of like some of the other players around. After Troy, I have Dylan. Dylan keeps winning. He's won with a lot of different people. He can play up with Caleb. He can play up with CS, and the CS versus Preston and Dylan game seemed really close. Going back and watching Dylan footage, Dylan seemed to be playing this more modern game a lot sooner than most people were. This idea of, hey, I'm going to hit this ball 80 feet, and you're going to have to really go get it, or you're not going to get it. Or, hey, I'm going to hit this low-driven push shot that the old defenses, like 2015, just did not have answers for. So a lot of these shots that I see Dylan play in the old game are what everybody does now, but nobody did then. So I guess you asked Fitzy a lot about what his metrics for ranking people were, and mine are clearly winning and how much you change the game. And I think that Dylan definitely scores really highly on change the game and winning. I mean, the dude has pitchers everywhere in his house. And then my number 10 pick is different. Nobody else has chosen him, but I'm going with Joel Graham. A weird pick probably, but Nashburg has solid Nationals finishes and then just switches up and played well with Caleb all year. I know that team didn't win as much as Nashburg did, but it seemed to me that Joel was still, getting results, getting top 3 finishes throughout that year, and then coming back in 2019 with Jesse and getting results again. And even though he doesn't necessarily play meta, and he has to defend with the weird like right hand, left hand thing crossover for push serve. So I find Joel really impressive, and a lot of his results kind of, I don't know how to say, but right there. Like he's always been there, and he's always been influential and impactful. And then I'll give my honorable mention. My number 11 is the one is Max Modell, because it's really weird. Although Max hasn't done a lot, I always am teaching people, and people come back to me, like new players, and sit there and talk about Hilltop. And I'm sitting here going, I haven't told you about Hilltop. Where did you find out about these guys? It's like, but look at these serves. And everybody has raved to me about how terrifying Max is to play. And I think for me, part of Max's intriguing part is what we haven't gotten to see yet. So I'm choosing Max as my honorable mention for the future, as well as, learning the game, coming from behind, picking it apart, developing cut serves on the left side and really attacking people.
I think
I
Max
never
for
tried
us, I mean, I think Dylan would probably agree that Max for us is probably with Caleb, and we just can't justify yet in top 10 players of all time, but guarantee you give it a little bit, and we probably will.
100%, yeah. I had to give him the honorable mention.
Yeah.
I know Caleb is there, but
I wouldn't put him at 11, but honorable mention, sure, why not?
right, exactly. I put him instead of Caleb, not as like a dig against Caleb, or not that he's had more success than Caleb, but that I don't know. People find Max and they come and they tell me all about Max. I'm like, yes, I know Max is awesome, but the new players always just are blown away by some of the stuff he does serving wise.
Yeah. Interesting.
Cool. Awesome, buddy. Thank you.
Enjoy. Been enjoying the stream.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, bud. All right, chat. You know what to do. Scale of 1 through 10, what do you have for Frederick Hinkle's list? While you guys are doing that, we'll give some instant reactions. So, I guess for me in particular, I want to say the first thing is I love the logic behind how much they changed the game and how much they've won. I think that obviously a lot of us think about how much people have won, because that especially if it's over time, especially if it's a large amount, that is pretty significant. But how much they changed the game, especially for this stage of where we are in the sport, I think that's a really good metric to use.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of do that subconsciously, right? Like, that's why I think a lot of people have PJ as number one. Of course, he's won the most, but he's also like, I mean, if you were on the scene in 2015 and you saw Peter John play, you were like, this guy is the biggest freak I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely keep that in mind at all times. So I thought that was a really good point. But there are some rough ones for me. Preston above Sean, that is a very hard sell for me. I'm not, maybe for the future, but as it stands right now, if Roundnet stopped immediately, I don't really see that argument. And then Joel for me, great guy. I totally get about the early years, but to me, he's not close to top 10. And then Max Modell, kind of same thing for me. I agree with exactly what Fred said, right? Like, he's a great talent. Like, he is going to be a top 10 player for years to come, but he's been out for 18 months. Hilltop, I still don't think Hilltop has a pitcher. Like, that to me, honestly, like, I don't even think Max is in my top 25 of all time, because, like, it just, he hasn't been around enough. Like, Hilltop, and that's not even Max's fault. Hilltop is still super young. Like, they're very, very young, so they have a long way to go. So, so it looks like a lot.
David made a good
people.
comment. Did you say? Did you say this? Sorry, I was doing an audio thing. David made a good comment. COVID-19 freeze of tournaments is going to help Max so much, because coming into this year, like, with his ACL, like, I mean, everybody, what I've heard is he's not ready to, like, make a push for the World's qualification or something like that. If they happened, in March, it started in March. But, like, this freeze of tournaments is going to help his recovery time, and he's just going to come back to the game so much better than he already was, just instantly, So that's really, really good for him, and an interesting thing to think about.
But again, I think despite all that, like, that perspective is important. Like, perspective of newer players, and, like, especially because a lot of the OGs, like, we all know each other super well, but it's valuable to hear someone come onto the scene and, like, how did they learn, right? Like, who did they watch? Because I also think that's really important. Like who do newer. So I think that's why that's really valuable. We got a lot of new people in the chat, Skylar and Jarrett, just in the chat. So that's a great point too. So Fred had some really good points about Buddy in terms of finishing third with Zach, and obviously we all know about 2019 Santa Monica. the one thing I'll say, I can't speak to when he played with Zach at regionals. That was a crazy result. Huge props for that. What I will say about 2019 Santa Monica is I do not agree that that was all Buddy. Zach Duffy was on a mission that day, and if you were at Santa Monica, you know what I'm talking about. That was like one of our first introductions, along with Preston and Caleb, about what double faking with both hands can do on sand. And that's why a lot of us now, like that was the jump start of a lot of it, believing that sand is no longer a viable competitive surface, which is personally what I believe. So that is, yeah, right. And I think a lot of people who are in the chat who are there, they know. And like, again, don't get me wrong, Buddy was very, very solid, especially for not playing in however long. I'm not saying he wasn't, but during the OV match against Duffy and Buddy, where they just smacked us, literally, Buddy said like 5 or 6 times, like, so I just get to stand here all day. That's what this is going to be, right? Because like Duffy was just acing us right and left. And so I think that while I'm obviously Buddy's on my list, I'm not discrediting what he said about Buddy. I think like that is just something to keep in mind when it to last years. Real fast, I don't know if we even have time for another person, honestly, but what I'm going to say to the Mangoon real quick is I try and be very logical, evaluate talent, but in your top 10, I really think that there is a big issue because you rewind back to 2015, 2016, OV won 8 pitchers, pitchers. I think that shows more about the history of the sport, and especially when it comes to Drucker over Chris and I totally get eye test. I totally get talent. So you would argue that Drucker's more talented, but he's just won so much less than us, and that for me personally, like I cannot get on the same page with that. So I just wanted to say that real quick, because like even if you don't have me and you choose Chris because he has been like, he didn't take a break in 2017, he grinds super hard, he travels a lot, that would just be kind of, I don't know, that's kind of weird. What do you think about that?
I missed a little bit of that. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
For those of you that don't know, I like kind of work at a church, and that's my office space, and so the janitors came in, and I was like, what's going on? I don't know. So sorry, I missed some of that. Sorry, chat. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. We'll get to Drucker. I heard you talk about Drucker, and I wanna
hold on. Again, pause. This man says Drucker has history with Roundnet. Look, bad argument, okay? Bad argument to say that Drucker has history with Roundnet, and that's why you place him over Chris or I. That's just not good.
Yeah.
Not good logic. Deep history. Bruh.
sure.
I started playing in 2007, man. I don't know what you're talking about. That's craziness. That's craziness. Okay, so, guess what?
Yes.
Do you have another guest on? Do you want to go through? I want to respect your time, and I know you said 9:30. So, do you want to just go through our list? Like, what do you think? Because I was thinking we either do Skylar or Jarrett.
I would love either one.
But
yeah, I would love either one.
Do you have
I have time. I have plenty of time
for another. Okay,
yeah.
I have time as well. So, I want to make sure that. Okay, we're gonna leave this up to chat right now. So, 2 options for our last guest, both OGs, both great perspectives, I think. Skylar and Jarrett. Why not both?
If the chat wants both, if you want both, I'm down.
I'd do both. I would do both. Okay, let's get both of them on. Let's do Skylar first, just because we already added him, and then Jarrett. If you're in the chat, we need to add you on Discord. So if you want to, Jarrett, if you want to put your
well, here I'll put mine.
Yeah.
Skylar, both of you guys, both Skylar and Jarrett, add me. I'm putting my little thingamabob Discord thing in the chat right now.
Yeah, Skylar said he's in a field, so yeah, Jarrett, if you're in the chat, I'm gonna tag him too.
Okay.
With knowing Dylan's history. Yeah, so like again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm just like having a big head here. I just think if you're gonna make an argument about history, like I just think Drucker and I like, and I'm full disclosure, Drucker did start playing before me, but it was very very similar. It was very very similar. So if that's your differentiating factor, I'm just gonna push back on you a little bit there. Jared first, both. Also, thanks guys so much for being here. We got 33 people. We got a lot of engagement in chat. Gasway and I love doing these. I'm assuming we're gonna keep doing these more and more. We both love talking about Roundnet so much and just the history. Oh, Fitzy, I wanted while we wait for Jared, I wanted to reference Fitzy had a question, and he said, does the fact that Chris has never been ranked in the top 10 impact our thoughts on like the all-time top 10 list? And I thought that was a great question because number one, it does make sense. Like if a player's never been top 10 in a season, like why would they be top 10 overall? And my response to that would be it could only happen for like a 9 or 10 slot, but I think Chris's consistency over the years, like and how much he's won, really elevates him to that level. And for sure, you could argue I have partner bias. Conceptualize that there was a time in which Ovi was thought to be better than Chico by quite a few people in the community. Like if we hadn't had our Birchill experience, like we might have taken that one slot away. And people give me a lot of credit for that season, but I don't think they give Chris enough credit. And that's something I've said over and over. I think that year I was ranked 6th and Chris was ranked either 11th or 13th. I don't really remember, but in my mind it was an absolute sham that Chris wasn't in the top 10. I thought I think that Drucker was ranked higher than him, and I just had a hard time understanding that. So for me, when you look at the fact that Chris has won 12 titles, he travels all over, he's just very influential in the sport around that, like that's what kind of pushes that edge for me personally. But if you're someone who goes more eye test, then I could absolutely see you not having Chris in your top 10, or honestly I could see you not having him in your top 15. Chris will yeah, I mean I definitely believe that. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that he is just, and that's not really that.
You broke up a ton.
And he's still in. Did I? Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so if it's better, I was just saying like Chris will always get the short end of the stick just because he's not super flashy. Like but he's consistent. He gets results. So that is my answer to Fitzy. I could see either way, but I don't think it matters that he was never in the top 10 to be voted top 10. How does in battery dying? Oh God, Skylar, I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Jarrett just added me. Skylar, are you Jewish, Spikeball?
Okay.
Jew as in J-O-O, not J-E-W, for those wondering. Are we adding Jarrett? Ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for Jarrett. And then Skylar, you have to. So Skylar, if you're listening, you have to download Discord, and then Gasway, if you could put your friend code in.
Yeah, I'll do that.
In the chat again. And you have to.
Hey there.
That's what.
Can you hear us?
What's up?
I can hear you. Hold on. Is this connected to my... Let me take this out. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can.
You're very quiet, but that's all good.
We're very quiet to you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yikes.
Wait. No, now we're good.
Cool. Also, welcome to the stream, Zach Duffy. We just talked about you for a while.
Oh yeah, Zach.
Welcome.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about you destroying everyone at Santa Monica 2019. That was super fun.
Sand.
That was probably the first tournament I was ever frustrated with the sport of Roundnet and wanting to be like this sand. I love sand and I live next to sand and I was so frustrated. Travis can tell you there was a point when we played not two guys. We played Boisterous and Travis went 8 straight aces against Caleb and Preston, and then Preston came back and went 8 straight aces against us, and it just felt helpless with the fakes, and then playing Zach, and I was like, there's no lines, and it just felt it was one of those days where I didn't like the game, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
I think we've all had those, especially on sand.
It's not like the point of this call, but I think that was an awakening for a lot of people. Whether you were watching Caleb, whether you're watching Preston, whether you're watching Duffy, we all felt that day it's like too quick for this surface, too quick for deep sand, and it's funny because Jared and I have never like talked together, but it's something like that day too. I knew Jared was like super pissed. I was super pissed. I was like, what is it? Like, and I just merged collectively on that day, and we're like, yeah, this can't happen, man.
yeah. So
all right, Jared,
my list.
Hit
right?
us with it. Yep.
My number one, I have Tyler, and my main argument for that over PJ is his, I guess, longevity with the rookies over just over the long haul. PJ might have started playing, I guess, around the same time of him. I think it was a little bit after. But from my knowledge, as a lot of you don't know, Devin and I, we graduated college 2014. We started playing a Strange Embrace, went to a couple of the West Coast tournaments. Nationals was in Santa Monica that year. We actually went, not really knowing much about it. We're just two athletic guys. We get to the round of 16 against the rookies. No one knows who we are. We're not like expected to win. And that year, if you got top 8, you were elite at nationals. So it was like Devin and I didn't know what to expect. We were playing the rookies in that round, and you're like, whoa, we could get elite at this, and we just started playing. And I just remember the confidence in Tyler's face, and we just got put to shame. It was like, we're athletic, and these guys that look young, look like babies to us at the time. I was like, how did we just get made fool of? So I'm putting Tyler at 1 for his longevity and, again, his overall success. PJ's at 2 for me. Just same reason. Ultimate dominance, still been around a good amount of time, can win with anyone. I have Skylar at 3 just for being previously the best. I have Preston at 4. I think he's had good showing at nationals. One of his first big tournaments was Preston. You'll have to say, was it 2015 or 16? Might have been, I can't remember. But in San Francisco, and he beat, I think, with Tom Witt, and he beat me and Devin that day. And he was like just starting out. I just think ultimately
Was that Tom Witt or was that Bryce Johnson?
It wasn't with Bryce Johnson. It was either with
Okay.
Dylan Cronin, an old school Chico guy.
Yeah.
He can put in the chat. I don't know what. Tom Witt. No, I think it was with Tom Witt. I think it was Brock and Wally, 2015. But they went to San Fran and they were beating people. I just think I put him in front of Sean. I have Sean at 5, because Preston has now continued to be elite and continued to play. He didn't have the early success that Sean did, but as the game progresses, he still will be on top. And I think his current success has overpassed previous success for Sean in my eyes. So that's why I have him at 4. I do have Sean at 5. I know I talked to you about this, Dylan, because I've never won a title but I've been. I mean, 2014 was kind of a fluke in the round of 16. I don't really count that, but every national championship, I know how highly you take those into play. I've been there. And so a lot of people can argue me as a player, I've never been the flashy, powerful hitter, the cheeky guy. Kind of just can mesh well, can manage a headspace, can be confident in and around the court. And that's kind of what you need. I see a lot of young people. You can ace me a lot, all these young guys, and you might be able to hit it by me, but what's the difference? Why are you losing? And I think this is a lot with a lot of the older, mature players. It's just a matter of knowing that we can. I've been here. I know what to expect, and it's taking pressure and using it in your favor. It's not taking pressure and then crippling your ability. So I like to really use maturity as a high number in my scale and tournament experience. I still will put Sean ahead of me because he's got the titles, but it was hard for me. And yes, it's me giving my own rating.
I mean, in our sport, that's the story of our sport for years.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And to
but
be
it's
clear, Jared at 6 is the right answer, so it's, you don't have to worry about that.
But that was like the answer that might like debate people is like, if I put myself in front of Sean, then it would get a little iffy. But I only argue that just because of recent continued success at nationals. Like 2014, I'm in round of 16. 2015, we get second. Nobody knows who I am besides for West Coast players. 2016, we get third, beat Nashburg easily in the round or in the third place game, losing to two guys in three, just because Troy went beast mode. We had one play in game 2 that I think was the determining factor. We were playing so well. Let the ball drop. If a lot of people don't know that, but Devin and I were up in game 2, had the momentum, and Troy got this insane, like, diving over the net, little drop dink back over his shoulder, like, boop. And it just was going to come right to us. It would be a quick 1-2-3 put away, or even just a 1-2 put away the other direction. And we both just let it drop in between us, like this little dink. And it was huge momentum shift for us. They ended up winning game 2, and then we lose game 3 because Troy went beast mode, and his cut serve was unheard of back then.
Devin's reaction to that drop is still burned in my mind. I remember watching that from the sideline and just watching you guys both and just being like, what was that? And Devin looked like he was about to throw something. He didn't have anything to
for those of you that for those of you that know Devin, it was always heat. There was always smoke coming out of his ears and eyes, and that was no different. And that's one of those things I look at. It's like, we knew we were going to beat Chico if we went to the final. We were that confident. Like, right. We were like, it was our day too, and two guys just happened to beat us, and then it was their day, and that's awesome. But again, there's like, okay, so it's second place, a third place. 2017, I tore my labrum the week before, my right arm, going to nationals, and I had to use my left arm mainly. And then you all know Chicago it got canceled, then it got changed, and we're going to this indoor facility. We can't wear our cleats. Devin's livid. We go 4-4 in pool play because we have no grip. We're playing like barefoot. There was a lot of mental things, but I want to give a quick shout out. I know this is going off topic and we're like staying on 5 and 6 forever. Sorry, Gasaway.
It's all good.
Drucker, talk about a good guy. He literally went during our like bracket break or like the lunch. I don't even know what you call it, dinner break at
right.
Maddie's in 2017
at 11 p.m.
Went to a shoe outlet, got Devin and I indoor cleats off like the clearance rack. We like gave him money, and it was like, holy cow, what a great guy. Like, that was incredible. So Drucker, thank you again, because we put those on, and then in bracket play we had the worst draw out of anyone. I don't think anyone can argue that on our side of the bracket. unless you say Bud and Bulls has the worst draw because they're playing us early. But beating a team, then having to beat Golden Set, then beating Bud and Bulls, then facing CS in the round of 8, and it's like we lose in 3 games there. So that was just a bummer. But okay, I'll move on. I put me at 6. I'm gonna put, or no, I have put Buddy at 7. I know you're arguing heavy West Coast. You don't like the heavy West Coast thing, but I still think every time I play with Buddy, he'll be away from the sport, whatever, and come back, and it's just ridiculous. The way he can track a ball and get an up and be an athletic freak is absurd. He has a lot of history, and I'll let him be on this list because of the history, and he can still pop into a tournament and do well. I still want to play a tournament with him. I still haven't got the privilege to do that. So I have him at 7. I guess I have Troy at 8, just for the Nationals title. He's been around a long time, did really well with Harding. He is a very intellectual player. I know Frederick said the same thing, but he will. Like, we'll talk through something, and it'll be an instant adjustment. We switch a certain direction or a certain cut move, and all of a sudden you're getting ups nonstop. So it's funny how laid back and quiet he is, but then you give him a moment to be a leader on the court, and all of a sudden it's brilliance. Dylan at 9. You have all the history in the world. You're a great competitor. I still want to play a tournament with you at some point.
Okay, brother.
And then 10 is a hard number for me. So I don't know. I see your argument for Hornacek. But I have question marks on my paper for 10. But I'll go with Caleb. Just because
First time Caleb's been on the list.
Yep.
He won 2015 Nationals as a youth player with Pigs Can Fly or something like that.
Pigs Can Fly,
That's
baby.
like
Or
the
Can't
youth
Fly,
division.
something like that.
Yeah, and just ever since has been so good, and I think he could be the best player. I think mentally he needs to be stronger and more confident. Yes, he's young, but there's a lot of submissive nature in his mental game. I think if he takes that and plays with a little more confidence, yes, you're a humble kid. Yes, we love that about you. Never stop. But when you're on the court, it's okay to be confident. It's different than cockiness. So let me just say, have confidence in yourself. He literally will call pocket or bad or say I'm sorry about one of his good serves. I'm just like, you're on the court, own it, love it, and we're gonna love you for it. So I'll put Caleb as 10. Good history, even as a young kid, in his divisions and coming up now with our open division. So there's my list. Thanks for having me on here, gentlemen.
Always.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was fun. And I will say, I can't wait to play in a tournament again and just play and see you guys in person.
Yes.
Hell yeah, man. See ya.
Well, good stuff. I will see you later.
Maybe. There we go. Caleb
All
at
right,
10?
So this is gonna echo now.
Oh, yeah, chat. Is there echo? Dylan's headset died.
Yeah, my headphones died, guys. That's my fault. But let me know if there's an echo in the chat. If there's no echo, then I can keep talking.
Yeah.
Guess what? Do you hear an echo or no?
I don't hear an echo.
Okay. No echo. Wonderful.
I wonder why it was
Then I
there
can-
earlier. Anyways.
I don't know. Then I can turn it up.
Yeah,
Awesome,
put
you guys
your
already
votes in.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're already ahead of the game. Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that that's probably my favorite list so far.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best ones that I've seen.
Yeah, and I just want to reference a few things. obviously Jarrett is, as a human, very inspiring and motivational, and I think that comes across definitely like when he plays Roundnet, because one of the best, I think the best argument I've heard on this stream was his argument about maturity and his argument about, you know, being able to be there and have the capacity to not let stress overcome you and not get nervous and just know that you are there for a reason, and and let your talent carry you to confidence. That's something that I talk with a lot. I do some like, just people will send me videos, or they'll send me, you know, things that they can improve upon, and one of the biggest reasons why I'm such a drill guy, and I say practice your serves, practice your setting, practice your serve return, is when you're in a situation where it's a tournament setting, it's at the end of the day, you've made it really far, you're tired, you want to have confidence in your ability, so that you don't undo yourself mentally. And that's something that I've talked to, I think that's what really limits some players. I'm not going to call them out, but just like in my experience going into certain finals or semifinals, like I thought of, okay, we have a huge advantage here because I know that this player, or my perception is this player is a little mentally weak. And I think that is such great advice from Jarrett. His point about nationals is so true. He's never won, but his consistency is beyond impressive. So I'm a huge fan of that. I see his point about Caleb at 10, especially because I was going to bring up eventually that Caleb did win Youth Nationals in 2015, and a lot of people forget about that. People forget about the fact that Caleb and Drucker have won cream of the crop twice, including beating the rookies the year that Tyler was ranked the best player in the world, which was just incredible. If you've ever seen like any footage from that game, Caleb, it was so interesting. Like he went off at like 2 cream of the crops, and like then, but like the rest of the year, like kind of like didn't play a whole lot or something like that. I don't really remember the situation, but I do remember those cream of the crops. So, and for me, like he was my number 11, honestly. Just because I just see so much potential in him, and Gasway and I were talking either at the beginning of the stream or before the stream. I think if we do this over again in 2 years, Caleb probably will be on the verge of top 5 if I had a guess. So wrong guy at 10 means you're jumping him over a bunch of other greats. Yeah, I do agree with that. I do agree that Caleb is too early for top 10. Good point there. Drills, of course. Not sure if it was said explicitly, but Jarrett lost to eventual national champ for every national champ. That's a great stat. That is. Do you read what Ben just put in the chat? That is great. Jarrett lost to every eventual national champ from 2015 to 2019. That's 4 years in a row. That's great. I love that. Thank you, Ben. That's great. The last thing I'll say, because we kind of referenced it with 2017 Nationals, 2 things. Number 1, that bracket was messed up, man. I mean, I think the top 5 or 6 teams were on one side. It was brutal on one side, and then on the other side, I'm gonna call out Drucker and Chris here, but Impact had a cakewalk to the finals and kind of blew it
for the year they had, like, you know, when they're at the 2-3 spot and then they get that bracket and they don't succeed.
Exactly, and
that's tough.
That's where like that's why we saw Spicy Dirt and oh my gosh, not Trippy,
Easily Dug.
Thank you. That wasn't even close on my mind. That's why we saw those in the semis, and you're like, how did this happen? I mean, even some of the other teams we didn't reference, like Anchored was on that side with Button Bowls and with 2 guys and you know, and with CS. Like it was crazy. Impact with a choke and a half. Yes, I definitely believe that. So Jarrett at 6 is a no-brainer. Yeah. So Braxton, I think you're a relatively new player, but I would say the top 6 from what we've seen is pretty much set in stone. It depends on the order, but we're talking PJ, Tyler, Skylar, Preston, Sean, Jarrett. Those are pretty much the top 6. What I'm seeing in terms of the trajectory, at least amongst the players we voted for, is that Buddy is pretty solidly in the 7 slot. Troy's pretty solid in the 8 slot. Myself is pretty solid in the 9 slot, and then we have literally gotten a different answer for
10.
everyone in number 10. We've had Hornacek, we've had Devin, we've had Fitzy, we've had Joel Graham, and now we have Caleb. So I think that is just a really interesting trend that I'm saying is like the top 9 seems to be relatively solidified, and then there's a lot of people on that, 10 through 15 or 17 that are all kind of close knit and competing. Awesome. And the last thing I was going to say about 2017 Nationals, and I'm surprised Jared didn't bring this up, but if you go back and look at that match, particularly against CS, because of the nets, because of the indoor, that series would have been way closer if they were outdoor, because there were
everything
so
was
many
replayed. Everything.
Well, especially from Devin and Jared, and I went back and I actually calculated like how many times Strange got robbed versus CS. I think ultimately CS still would have won the match, but I mean it would have been very close, very, very, very close. And who knows with momentum and confidence what happens if we're outdoors and nets don't get in the way. I mean, Jared mentioned it. Devin is a very emotional player. If he gets a couple aces on Strange on CS and he starts feeling himself, that match could have ended way differently. So I think that that's something to think about when it comes to kind of some Roundnet history and 2017 Nationals. So Skylar had to go, so I think what we're going to do now is we're going to give our list really quickly, hopefully wrap up in the next 15 minutes or so. Then we're going to choose someone for the giveaway. If you guys didn't hear the beginning of the stream, Andrew and I are going to give away a COVID-19 USA set to one of the people in chat. So we got 29 people right now. You have to be in chat in order to win.
I have 37 on my end.
Oh, well, 27 on my end. I don't know. We have a lot of people in here is the point. So we'll roll that. We'll ask you guys for the shipping address, and then we will get you out. So thank you guys so much. What about women's? Great question. I kind of decided midway through that, number one, I want to give women's their own stream, just because I think there's so many amazing things to talk about there. And it was just too much. We were trying to tackle too much. So we haven't set in stone, but I would love to do women's like next week or something like that. Yeah. And try and get some of the OGs, give them a little bit of heads up and try and get them on call, just like we did with some of the OG men players. So
yeah, don't want to give women's top 5 players with no women's input at all.
Yeah,
it'd be a little weird.
Absolutely. I know. I do really agree with that. The legend of Dan was born that day in bracket draw. Okay, we can settle a little bit there, Dan Y. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for all the interaction.
Now you get to rate our lists.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to have you go first, Andrew. So
okay, let me pull it up.
1 to 10, who is your list? And same thing, we're going to try and keep it to like 5 minutes for each of us. I think because it's like we're going to be podcasting and streaming a lot, like we'll probably talk about our lists at some point or another, so it's not vital to go super in depth.
1.2 for me. Savage. It hurts.
Hey, I got a 1 if that makes you feel better.
All right. Okay, so I know mine will probably get pooped on a little bit, but that's fine. So 1, PJ. I think just like so. Jared said something interesting with the Tyler and PJ, and I know that we've talked about them a lot in the top 4 spots. It's pretty like everyone knows. But PJ has played a little less than Tyler, but like PJ's growth and like trajectory into a top 10 player was way faster than Ty's, in my opinion. So I put PJ as 1, and then I put Sky as 2. Which I think some people might have. I mean, Preston talked about it a little bit, but Sky changed the game a ton, won just like so many stinking things, and was just like, I feel like he was the number 1 player for so long, and everyone like undisputed, and like it's still good.
Real quick, I just want to interject real quick. I'll let you continue, and I think because this is really relevant, I forgot who brought it up, but there are 2 sides to this Skylar argument. one side is because there weren't a lot of players playing back in 2014, 2013 when Skylar was dominating. He shouldn't be as high because there weren't enough competitors. But the other argument, which I think is a good one, is that pitchers started like later, especially the official tour series. It started later, so Skylar was like really. I mean, if you think about it, like how old is he? Is he 30 or whatever? If you think about like 2012, he was in his prime. That's when he was really competing. So, as the timeline went on, he just got a little bit older, but like there were less chances for pitchers because there wasn't tour series in 2012, 2013. So I thought that was like a really interesting argument. So it depends on what side of that argument you're on. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I think like for where the game was in 2013, 14, 15, and close to 16, like the way that he touched the ball, the way that he hit the ball is completely different than anyone. Like I think that's pretty undisputed. Like the way his touch is completely different. Like his reflexes are like stupid. Like I think PJ and Tyler are very, very, very good in at the game that we have now, and like their skill set is very good for now. And yes, they have good reflexes, fantastic reflexes, and great offense and stuff. But like Sky's, like the way that he like moves his body to get touches is just different. And I think that it's still good today. So that's number 2. Ties at 3. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. This is where like looking at my list now, I'm like, okay, like I could see where I changed this, but I put Sean at 4 and Buddy at 5. Buddy is super high. Sean, Chico. Like that's for me. It's just I value Chico as like. Chico and CS for me have to be in the top 4. Like I don't see anybody else. And then I think other people are competing for 5. But yes, so I put Buddy at 5 because it's like under Chico, like it's Buddy. Like Bryce was good as well, but Buddy's defense is ridiculous and always has been. And again, right now could step in the game and play defense in a super offensive heavy sport, which I value a lot. Like if anybody knows what they're doing on defense, 1, it's Buddy, and 2, I value more than offense, I think, because offense is easier to learn than defense is in our sport right now. So defense, Buddy, 5. Dylan, on the opposite end of the spectrum, super offensive heavy. I have you at 6 because OV's dominance was like better than like a lot of people. You guys just went on a run and it was insane. Sad for Birch Hill that didn't work for you guys in Chico 2016 against Chico. I'd like to think that it was because of the rain and whatever, maybe. Sure, you did. Yes. But also, like, going into that tournament, I remember, like, going into camp, I was just like, oh, yeah, I think this is the tournament Vengeance, like, wins. Or this is the tournament where Vengeance beats Chico. So that's just, like, right before that, I was like, holy crap, Vengeance, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I put you at 6. I put Bryce at 7 because I value what Beavers did. But also, like, I could definitely see Bryce being closer down to 12, 13. Like, this stream was a good, makes me think about some things. So I just valued Beavers and what they did. And then I put Jarrett. The last 3 are Jarrett, Preston, and Chris. And I think that Chris, for me, squeaked in at 10. I would say, like, over Fitzy, over Caleb. Those are, like, the players I was kind of thinking about for 10. No, Preston. That's what I'm saying. Like, anyways, you're really good. You're really good.
Don't listen to him. Just speak your truth. Guys. Speak your truth.
I think for the reason I put Preston at 9, and I'm not saying this, like I would say this even if you didn't say I was pooping with you, or pooping on you. But I think Preston, like, to me, and I wasn't there, I didn't watch, I only watched YouTube of 2016 Nationals. I was around the sport, but I didn't go to DC for that. But to me, like Troy was dominant in that series for me. Like Preston, very good, but Troy was like, okay, he did the thing. You know, he put him up. I forgot where I was going with that. Yeah. I don't know. You'll talk about Chris. Like, I want you to get to your list. My list is like, I put a list together. This is what I think. I also, actually, that's where I should go with this. I think we've talked a little bit about, like, it's interesting hearing from, like, players like Fred, new players, who do they learn from? I think along with that, like the impact that you've had on a sport in 7 years, I think is valuable, like very, very valuable in the sense of it, like the top 10 players of all time. So if you think about basketball and Michael Jordan, like, yes, very good player, dominant player, but like I think people consider his brand and like the whole be like Jordan thing huge, you know, that like impacted basketball. Like people like really, really cared about that. And so I'm comparing Roundnet players to one of the greatest players of basketball players of all time. But I think Chris squeaked into 10 because of what he's done for the sport. And I could probably make that argument about like, that's why I value Bryce and Buddy high, is because they made a huge impact back in the day when the sport was starting. Just like they got the sport off the ground. Handsome and Chico, like people wanted to watch, you know, that spectator friendly is exactly. It's super high in my head. Poop it. I don't know. Just the impact of players on the sport, I think, matters when it's talking about top 10. Obviously, like you're not going to have like a content creator in the top 10 and that's all they do, but like if you were a very, very, very good player who has a lot of successes, has a high ceiling, can meet the eye test, and has impacted the sport, you're in my book. You're good in my book. Go ahead.
I like that.
You go. I talk too
no,
much.
I can see you getting influenced by other people, and I don't want that, because the whole point, in all seriousness, the whole point of this is the beauty of perspective, right? This is why I love lists and I love subjective lists, because there's stuff to discuss and people have different things that they hold highly. And I went on a little rant to the other day about like our individual player list or our team list. Like, guys, it's subjective. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be something to celebrate how others think. And I think that, you know, without getting too preachy, that's like one of the issues with what we have in the world right now, is like there's tons of perspectives, right? And that's okay, as long as we're respectful and listen to other people. Like, that's all we can do. That, and especially when we have a community, that's just going to bring us back together. So and I think you made a lot of really good points. So what I would say, guess what, at least 3.5, that's funny.
At least.
So what I would say is I really like your argument for Skylar at number 2. Spoilers, I agree with it. I see your perspective on Chris. Of course, I'll talk about that during my list. I do think you're off with Preston, of course. I do think you're off with Bryce. I think you're off with me. But so overall, like, but that's 3 slots out of 10, and I think that everything else was solid. I see your argument for. So I personally gave that a 5. Oh yeah, getting some. Look at that. Preston's just a bully. Don't listen to that guy. Cool. So I think that was all things considered one of the more different lists. But again, that's fine. So
might as well stir the pot, right?
Once again, I find myself agreeing with Fitzy a ton. Yeah, isn't it crazy how that works? Like I said, one of the best minds in Roundnet, Ryan Fitzgerald, no question about it. Okay, so we're going to finish the stream with my list. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. There's really, honestly, just like 2 people I want to talk about a lot. So my top 4 are exactly like Andrew's. I have I have Peter John at number 1. Lots of people have talked about it. I've touched on it. A freak. I just remember him beating me. He was the first person who really beat me consistently. I'll always have like a special place in my heart for Peter John and I, because I think, especially in terms of Midwest Roundnet, it was kind of the two OG battles since early 2015. So I've always respected PJ a ton. I think his ability to change the game. We talked about changing the game. I don't think anyone does that better than Peter John. I think the person who does that second best is Skylar, and exactly for a lot of things you said. I think his touch is phenomenal. If you look at 2013, 2014, sometimes people debate between like Peter John and Tyler and Preston, but at that time, early on, Skylar was number one, no question. Like a few people who were wrong said Sean was number one, but like in so many ways, Skylar controlled the sport in ways that really shaped how a lot of people play now. And when you were looking at who to try and emulate in 2013, 2014, 2015, 16, it was Skylar. Like I promise you that. The OGs, it was Skylar. So I have PJ 1, Skylar 2, Tyler 3. I think as much as I say about Skylar, I think Tyler's close. I think Tyler's obviously just really coined a lot of awesome things that we now see in the sport all the time. I know that Troy started the cut serve. I get that. So West Coasters, relax and chat. But Tyler is really the one who embodied that, and I think created this new meta where everyone had a cut serve.
Meta.
Same thing with our cut. You cannot. There's no debate here that Tyler created the reverse cut, or at least implemented it consistently in play. Which I
would
think
say.
Is...
Go ahead.
What was that?
I would say if CS wins nationals this year, if we have a nationals this year, like no doubt in my mind, Tyler's up there. Like boom, like passes Sky. I think in my head, just a random thought. I think that to me, like 4-time national champions. I mean, he's a 3-time national champion, and Skylar didn't do that. But it's just like it's so close that I think that just like no matter what pushes like Ty over the line for number 2. So.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's very, very close, right? Like Scott, I think I see arguments for Tyler at 1. I get that, but I think especially based on people we've had on and a lot of people's opinions, I think Peter John for a lot of people is number 1, and I think 2 and 3 is a lot closer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. Number 4, I have Sean Chico. I totally I agree with what a lot of people have said about Sean. He's not flashy, but he is the definition of consistency. Sean never missed Boyer. I mean, he really showed what just consistency can do for you, especially in the early days. And even as late as last year, he beat Preston. He beat Preston with Jared. And I think that is something that I always think about when I think of Sean, and why Skylar always talks about how Sean could just jump into the sport now and be exactly the same kind of player. So I think
Sean, if you're listening,
really
please come back and play. Same with Buddy. I want both of them to come back and play so bad.
Troy and Grayson technically did it first, but Grayson's was a unique serve. That's an interesting point, but I would say Troy did it first, and definitely like on the biggest stage. Like you could argue that 2 guys won 2016 nationals because of Troy's cut serve. So definitely good point there. So Peter John 1, Skylar 2, Tyler 3, Sean 4, Preston 5. I think honestly, when I think about it, I think it's gonna be a long road to even pass Sean. I think Preston's going to have to win a lot more than he has. Because it's crazy when you think of Preston and being the number 3 player. And like, I thought he was the best player this past year. He's won 8 times, and like SRA tour stops / regionals and national champs. And that is less than half of the way to Sean. So if you're someone who values winning a lot, he's got a long road, but I think he's, for me, no question, number 5. For me, no question, number 6 is Jarrett, for everything we talked about, just freak athleticism, doing things in the sport that are a little unique in the sense that he's not a server and a hard hitter, but he's defensive, he's a setter, he's consistency, he's phenomenal at serve return. Maybe best all-time serve return, in my opinion. So he's at 6. At 7, I do have Buddy for a lot of the reasons why like what people said. I think coming back in 2019 and getting second in Santa Monica is insane. Zach Zimmerman getting third at 2018 regionals with Zach Zimmerman. Like, Zach's a good player, but I don't know if he was ever top 15 ever. Maybe not even top 20. So like that is just what. And like 2018 Point Loma. I mean, that was when Point Loma was
number 3.
I mean, they were on the come up at that point. I think that I don't know. Someone in chat can tell me if they had
2018
won a pitcher by 2018. I think they had won a pitcher by 2018 when they played at regionals, but I'm not sure. So Buddy at number 7. I have myself at number 8. So this is kind of where I wanted to dive in a little bit. I have myself at number 8 and Troy at number 9 for a couple of reasons. I've talked about it a few times on this live stream. Totally get what everyone is saying about IQ. I think Troy is very quiet but understands the game really well. I know he's a national champ, and Fitzy, great point about Tour Stop, Grand Slam, Regionals, Nationals. That is a great point. But personally, like, I've always had really good success against Troy. I've always combated him pretty well the year 2 guys won Nationals. I think we beat him in 3 series in 2 games. It never went. And at Santa Monica in 2016, we beat him like 21-16, 21-16. Like, it was not really close. So for me, in my playing experience, I just have really good head-to-head against Troy. Of course, I did reference that 2019 Santa Monica Grand Slam. Kenny and Troy wrecked us. But I would personally say that was more from Kenny, and that because Kenny was, I thought, a freak that day. So,
I think it's interesting that no one has mentioned Kenny in top 15. I know in like sliding in the 10 spot, like no one's even kind of mentioned it, which is interesting. I'm going to
reference that a little bit at the end too. But Fitzy tagged me, so I saw it. Where does Troy drop to if he loses to Chico in 2016? For me, probably around 15, if I'm being honest. And I know that's probably a cold take, especially to a lot of West Coasters. But if you take that national championship away, that is, for me, what really held Troy in the top 10 is that national championship, because there's a lot of great players that have won Tour Stops, a lot of great players that have won Grand Slams, and a lot of great players that have won regionals. So I think that that's a huge one for me. But not just that he won 2016 Nationals, the fact that I think that they won because of Troy. Like, Troy really took over that match, and on the biggest stage brought out something that no one's ever seen before. Like, that is an all-time for a lot of people. Yeah, some people, we'll talk about Kenny at the end, for sure. So I have myself at 8, Troy at 9, and then, Chris Hornacek at 10. And again, I got to be honest, to me, this one's not very close. Chris is just, he's won 12 titles. He's won 2 regionals. He's won 4 Grand Slams. I mean, really think about that. Or maybe actually, I think he's won 5. I think he's won more Grand Slams than me. I think he won 3 with OV, and then I think him and Drucker won 2 Grand Slams as well. They won Nashville for sure, and then I'm trying to think of the other one that year. 2017, I didn't play, so like I don't have the best recollection. But, and not only that, I mean, Chris is just someone who he's an OG. He's still playing. He's still very successful. I know I referenced earlier in the stream, they were a breakaway from top 4. Skylar and Chris were a breakaway from top 4 at 2019 Nationals against widely considered the 3rd best team all year, which was Moctega. And I know Moctega had probably a little bit of an off day, especially because they lost to Flexual in the 3-4 game. But just watching that series just showed me this is peak Chris Hornacek. This is peak, like, he was on, he was solid, he was locked in, and the dude is a competitor. And although I would argue that this is also sometimes his biggest default, like, he is insanely confident all the time. And I think that is very, very valuable. And I think that's the reason why, like, we talk about 2016 Santa Monica Grand Slam, where Chris and I had a terrible pool play. We went like 3 and 5, but then he flipped a switch, and I don't know how he did it, but on that day, 2016 Santa Monica, he became the best player in the world. And I know that might seem like a stretch, but to me it was not. He played his he just played out of his mind. And Buddy will tell you stories of the welts that Chris left after just destroying balls into Bryce and Buddy, who honestly were, I sat him, I watched it. They were helpless. They were helpless against Chris Hornacek. And I think that's something that's tough for newer players to conceptualize is peak Chris Hornacek was one of the most feared servers and hitters in the game. And I think at peak Chris Hornacek was a top 5 server and a top 5 hit. So people, I think, don't really remember that. Chris has 3 Grand Slams according to card sheet. Okay, that's definitely not true because he won 3 with me, and he won at least 1. I know he won Nashville, so that needs to probably be updated.
That's where he beat Loma, right, in 2017?
Yeah, they beat Loma at Nashville, and I'm pretty sure they beat Loma at another Grand Slam. I thought
was it like Milwaukee or something like that?
They
Madison?
beat Loma at Milwaukee, yeah. So what was the other Grand Slam that year? There was Boston, which anchored 1. There was Santa Monica, which I think Strange won. No, Strange. No, I don't know. Someone else correct me. False and false, Dylan's. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, present. But long story short is I think that Chris, as Skylar mentioned in the chat earlier, is always going to get the short end of the stick. I know the perception is that he's always been the second fiddle on teams, but just from someone who's played with him for 3 years, there are just parts of Chris's game that will always go, unnoticed, which is number 1, serve receive. People don't realize Chris used to be one of the hardest people to ace, and that's just because he is such a freak athlete. Number 2 is his hitting. It's crazy that the dude hits the same way in 2020 than he does in 2015 and still produces results. And that's because the dude is big, he's athletic, and he can hit the ball harder than a lot of people still. And I think at the end of the day, for me, there's something to be said about the amount of times he's won. I think it's very impressive in our sport that in 2016, which was the come up of a lot of great teams, he won 8 times. It's really impressive. The next year he won 3 titles, including definitely one Grand Slam. He is a little inconsistent. He doesn't have the best results recently. But again, we're zooming out and we're looking at the 7 years of our sport. And I don't really think that there's anyone who in my mind would take that slot away from Chris, if that makes sense. So only 4 Grand Slams for Chris. Okay, only 4 Grand Slams. But let's put Devin in. Just kidding. I love you, Devin. I'll repeat, Chris is the most underrated holder in the game. I definitely agree with that, especially if Chris is the receiver, right? Because the two really big areas of improvement in Chris's game is his setting and his defense. And so if he's receiving the serve and he's hitting 100%, most underrated holder of all time. He was lights out with that stuff. Chris being a top 5 server hitter, it's not crazy. It's the game and it's how it's built. False and false. Preston, this was before your time, brother. You didn't even play during the time that I'm referencing. I think Chris won in the Chico vacuums. Okay, but Ben, again, I gotta check yourself for a second, because in 2018 or 2019, he podiumed with Ian, who like barely played. Like Ian agreed to play with him like the night before, and Chris podium. So like I don't know about that. But I could see the argument for him outside the top 10. So that's my top 10. PJ, Skylar, Tyler, Sean, Preston, Jared, Buddy, Dylan, Troy, and Chris. So what we're going to do now, guys, we've got, at least on my end, 25 people. Thank you, guys, so much for hanging out for almost 2 hours. I love doing this stuff. I appreciate all of you guys in the chats. And, oh, yeah, rank my list. Hold on, pause. Rank my list. Obviously, I'm going to give myself as a 10. So you guys feel free to answer.
I think you're the first 10.
Of course I'm the first 10.
And did anyone else give themselves 10? Or did anybody give anybody 10?
Gosh, Hinkle, ruining my dreams with the 2. Oh.
He said 2. 2. Interesting.
5.1. Oof. All right. Well, I'm curious because we can't hear you guys. In chat, what are my biggest L's? What did I miss?
Also, side note, for the giveaway to be eligible, you have to have chatted once in the last, 12 minutes. So chat now.
So definitely rank. Definitely
yes.
rank.
Because I'm silly and didn't know what I was doing for a second. I had to press a button that I didn't press at the beginning of the stream, essentially. So,
I'll be honest. Okay, so Ben, I'll give you my list one more time. My list was Peter John, Skylar, Tyler. Number 4, Sean. Number 5, Preston.
oh, they
Number
can see
6
this.
Oh.
Exclamation point top players, right? Did you change the thing?
Oh, I didn't change the settings.
Oh,
So,
dang it.
1, Peter John. 2, Skylar. 3, Tyler. 4, Sean. 5, Preston. 6, Jarrett. 7, Buddy. 8, Dylan. 9, Troy. 10, Hornacek. The only big one I can think of that is ruining my list is you guys don't agree on Hornacek. So I am I have confusion. And I think you don't give enough credit to Troy. Okay. That's fair.
I didn't. And when making my list, it was kind of that's one thing that I think a positive this conversation towards changing my list is I really severely underrated Troy because I just didn't even think at all close to my top 10.
So here's my thing to respond to Fred. If we had Peter, John, or Tyler on this, here's what I would say. They would probably rank Anchored much higher than you would anticipate. Why? Because Anchored has a great matchup against them, and they respect those players very much. Similarly, that's my perspective, is that I have a great record against Troy. I personally don't fear playing Troy. So for me, that's why he is low. And I know he's got a great mind. He's a national champion. He arguably has a way better resume than I do. But I think that's why perspective matters. Is my perspective is that he's not someone that I fear like I fear playing Preston, Peter John, Tyler. So.
Also, I want to this comment from Braxton. I like Chris at 10 for winning sake, even though I think a big part of that is that he travels a lot. I think that's a plus. I don't Preston was saying attendance. I don't travel much, but I still win. My win ratio is good per travel to tournaments. But I really think that in a new sport like us, when our main goal is growing, becoming more real, we've been complaining that top players don't travel for years, and we have somebody that actually traveled to every single tournament. I think that's a plus. So I don't know. I don't think that should be counted against somebody unless if all of his wins were at tournaments that no top team was at. Sure, yeah, I get it, but also I don't know. I think that's a plus.
Yeah. So someone commented Sean above Preston is another reason why I voted your list down. Yeah, that's really tough for me, honestly, because Sean is a 3-time national champ. Sean dominated an era. Again, it makes sense coming from a Mangoon, coming from someone who's a newer player. And that's not to downplay your opinion, but I think that just makes sense. You weren't around for the time that Sean really dominated. And again, even though I believe that Skylar was always number 1, there were a lot of people who did think that it wasn't a large percentage, but I would say about 20% of people thought Sean was actually the best player on that team. So if you think about it, Sean, in some people's minds, was viewed as the best player on back-to-back-to-back national champ team for 3 years. Think of that. Think of that when you zoom out. I think that's very, very important. But if you go more by the eye test, then yeah, of course, Preston makes more sense. But I guess I'm a little surprised that people view Sean at 4 as too high, Dylan, you have 18 pitchers and have always been a better player for your team, whether you're not. Troy is 5 total pitchers. I don't think it's a real argument if that's how I think about it. Yeah, I can't lie. I agree with you. I know that an argument you could make for Troy is he doesn't travel as much, which kind of like what you were just saying, Gasway. That's both bad and good, right? Like on one hand, like that means for the tournaments you've shown up, you've by and large done better. But on the other hand, like traveling, is what makes an all-time player. I do agree with that sentiment, like especially early on. Sean,
right? Like that's not gonna matter as much in 8 years, 10 years, or whatever when we're like more of an official sport, like however many tour stops you travel, because the scene is going to look so much different, like the pro players will only travel to the big giant ones like the Grand Slams, the regionals, nationals, and because the local scene will be bigger, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. So but now, like in the first 7 years, I think it matters a ton, like the amount of people you're playing, whatever. I don't know. Go ahead.
2-time national champ, though, official 2-time national champ. But if you talk to Skylar and Sean, they will both say that they won 2013 Nationals, which was Spike-O-Palooza. They view that as official. So I guess like I'm so used to them telling me they've won 3 national championships. But you are right. I go by official. So
2 SRA.
It was 2 SRA national champs. So that's fair.
Well, 2 USA Spike Balls / SRA.
Yeah.
Because for people who have won SRA Nationals, it's CS. They're the only ones.
True. Awesome. Well, again, thank you guys so much. What we're going to do real quick before we leave is we are going to randomly draw. So, again, I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. If you haven't posted in the chat recently, my view says 26 people. I don't think 26 people have posted in the chat recently. Throw something in the chat. Throw a 1, throw a 2. Just throw something in the chat. You guys have 30 seconds, and then Gasaway is going to roll to see who gets the COVID-19 USA set. So go ahead. Number 3 team of all time, OV. That's my choice.
What's number 2?
CS Chico OV.
CS Chico OV or Chico CS OV?
CS Chico OV in my mind.
Okay.
And then fast forward to end of 2020 or 2021, it'll be CS Chico Boisterous OV.
I have a Belichick look going on. Don't ever compare me to the swines of the Patriots. Get out. Kansas City, born and bred.
You guys like my beard? I can't stop playing with it. I can't. I don't remember the last time I had a beard this long, but quarantine does stuff for you, man, or does stuff to you rather. Great stream, y'all. Perfect. Okay, Gasway, do you have our winner?
Well, yes, it is being slow. Also, something that I was going to say a second ago was it'd be fun to do there's a couple different categories for all time that we can talk about for streams, which we might do.
Yeah.
We'll talk later. But women's, of course, we're planning on that for sure. Women's, and then that's not how I wanted to do the giveaway. Oh, okay. Ignore that Nightbot chat. That did a thing that I did not mean for it to do. I pressed.
Well, while you figure that out, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things we can do for streams. One that I absolutely want to do, and maybe we should build up some hype for this more because I think this is such a great one, is the Mount Rushmore of Roundnet. Because I think what that does is it ties in not just players, but it also ties in like drivers of the sport. It ties in content creators, spoilers. Hornacek takes a huge jump, so just prepare, chat, because I'm going to go off on that. So there's just a lot of different ways of thinking. Like Chris Reuter might be on there. I think to your list, Gasaway, like Bryce probably jumps up on a lot of people because of Team Spikeball. And
well, that's what we were talking about with the Hall of Fame. Like same thing.
Yeah,
Mount Rushmore is a little less, but like classes of Hall of Fame, I love that. Like I would love to talk about that. Mainly selfishly because I would like to hope that I would be in one of the first 2 classes of maybe the second class of Hall of Fame for helping out the sport. Eventually, hopefully.
So,
but that's
Brad,
a fun one.
Just to respond real fast, OV has winning records against all of those teams mentioned. Strange If it weren't for an unfortunate day at Summer Spike 2016, we would be, I think, 5-0 against Strange. So, again, it depends if you want to look at overall success or matchups, but we have a great matchup against Strange. I don't exactly know what our record is against Anchored. I don't think we played them nearly as much, and they did beat us in Boston, but we beat them in Seattle most recently. And I don't know, Fitzy, how many times have we played in bracket? I don't remember. His OV undefeated against Strange, I thought not. Yeah, but, well, I mean, 21-12, 21-13. You ask yourself, what is that? That is the scores of the 2016 Santa Monica Grand Slam final. So 21-17, 21-17. What's that? That's the scores of OV versus Strange at 2015 Flurry. Boston, you want to talk Boston? That was another bloodbath. So
why you gotta do it to him?
Because that is being a little.
Jared's so nice. What?
Okay, Jared's the best, but there's always been this like competitive little. I think it's because like on a lot of lists, Jared and I have always been like right next to each other at like 5'6" or 6'7", so there's always been competition there. Plus, like Devin and I had a really bad start to our friendship.
That's fair.
We were out for blood against each other because old school Devin and old school Dylan, oof, that was two personalities. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
So it's only going savage. It's all in the form of logic, right? I'm just giving you guys scores to choose on, okay? And Summer Spike was 21-19 or 18 game 3. So like the one that Strange had, very close 3 sets. The other matches, not at all close. So, getting feisty. That's right, baby. Dylan's salty. That's maybe I went in a little bit too hard.
So, for giveaway, side note,
yeah,
I have a couple of other things to say after it, but Born Small 97. I don't know who that is, but I think you can whisper is what it's called, direct message on Twitch, who you are. So DM me your shipping address and your name, and then we'll get that out to you. Or email spikeballstream@gmail.com. Other one of those works. Yeah. The villains of Spikeball. Yeah.
The villains of Spikeball, baby.
That's you.
That was me.
Okay, what I don't get though, so you were like 2016 you, 2015, 16 you, and Chris, like we're so like hardcore mean or whatever. Then me and my girlfriend Nelly play you in Columbus, Ohio, in like the round of 64, and you guys were the nicest people ever. You were so sweet. You like hit the ball like this on the net. I just will always like doubt the villains of Spikeball title from you. Like it was there, but also in Columbus you were like, "Oh, hi, how's it going?" I just think that's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, and I've talked about this several times because it like in all seriousness, it's not something I enjoyed about myself, and a lot of my close friends in the community know that's like a big reason I stopped playing in 2017 is like I played. But it all derived from competition. It didn't derive from the fact that like I hated people. Like I didn't. It's like I just like got really competitive. But even at the time, like 2015, 2016, like there were a lot of people that were like I loved seeing, I loved traveling with them. But I think like it just got to a point where like it was like the burden of winning. Like when Chris and I started winning a lot, like we both put tons of pressure on ourselves. Even Mike and I in 2015. So like it was definitely an internal thing. And I think that like what I did when I came back was like I still was competitive, but like I tried not to be so ultra competitive. So
right.
And I think it worked out a lot more for me. Like in 2018, 2019, I enjoyed the sport so much just because I had changed my perspective on it. But so for those people who say they miss the villain, I don't miss the villain. He can stay where he was.
Also, I think when I said that about the giveaway person, I don't think they're in chat. So,
Yeah, I also don't remember that username posting. Maybe like just do it again, I guess. Like,
yeah, I did it again. I rolled again, and it's Kevin Bailey.
oh yeah.
I don't know,
We can
Kevin.
expect-
Oh wait,
Well,
never mind. I
he-
got a reply. I don't stick it no. Oh, you are here. Okay, never mind. Sorry, Kevin. I'll give you a hug. How about that?
Who are you, born small 97? I'm assuming someone born in 97, but
They sent me a message.
Kevin Bailey is here still too. Sorry, Kev. Maybe you'll win the next one.
Yeah. Sorry, Kevin.
Nope.
Anyways.
Born in. How are you gonna answer about the year, but not answer who you are? Like, I asked who you were. Like, actually, I wasn't born in 97. I was born in 99. Who are you, though? Who are you?
Did you see Kevin's comment? Tough L for my little sister who was about to get a free set.
Oh, come on, dude.
I'm the villain of Roundnet. I am. It's me. Yeah, what I was saying though with we should do so we're gonna do women's, and somebody asked when that's gonna happen. Yeah, next week, within the next week sometime. We'll see. Not Saturday. We'll see. Maybe Thursday if you're free, Dylan. We'll see. But we want to do women's soon because we meant to do it on this stream, but we talk a lot, and so does everybody in the Roundnet community. But that, and then we want to do. I would love to do a Hall of Fame-ish / like people impact of the sport, and also that can just be tied in general with general like what do we see as the future of the sport kind of thing happening, because everybody loves those discussions. And then I would love to do a content creation / like commentators and observers like all-time list, because I think that there's some funny things that we can talk about there.
That'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be great, especially for like storytelling. I think like
exactly.
They're just and also just to touch on that too. I mean, like you and I have talked offline about this, but when we talk about growth of the sport, obviously everyone at Spikeball Inc. does such a great job. Like Nora, Jack, a lot of other people, but just Nora and Jack are like the face of sports. But content creation is really what's going to help us, guys. Like, you know, we talk about, you know, we're in 2020, the internet is going crazy. Like those clips that
that's what I was thinking, Nora. Sorry.
What'd you say?
That's one story. Grayson Fleury observing. I'm definitely amazing. Like not top 10.
Amazing story. I love that. I love that story. Yeah, commentators and observers would be awesome. But again, like I really think you have to shout out, and we'll talk about this, but like Gasway, shout out Preston, shout out, of course, my big one is Chris Hornacek, just because like I think when you look at his social media following and you look at his Twitch following, like he really was the person who like took the reins on that. Yeah. And I think that that's important, number one, to recognize those people. Number two, like we need more. We need more content creators. Like we need more people recording videos. We need more people doing podcasts. And this is why, like, especially if we're not going to have most of our season, or knock on wood, all of our season, like I want to do stuff like this more, because there's so much that we could talk about. And, you know, Roundnet is getting to the point where ESPN is picking it up. House of Highlights is picking it up. Bleacher, like it's actually getting on some of these big sites. And if our goal is one day to create, you know, the next great American sport or global sport, or get to the Olympics, whatever your overarching goal is, content creation is going to be such a huge aid in that regard. So that it gets passed around nonstop. So that's my little spiel there. So, and I think especially during this time, we're going to see a lot of people start to create content. I know I've told, and like Gasway, like I'm going to definitely get on the content creation bandwagon, just because it's so fun. It's so fun, especially if you're like me and you're getting up there in age, and all these kids are hitting reverse cuts on you, and you're like, well, the only thing I talk about, that's how I kind of feel sometimes. So, breaking news for chat: all of June is canceled. Again, positive mindset. All that means is that you guys have more time to tune in to Gasway and I when we stream, chat with us. Remember the days where we could actually go outside of our house and play this awesome sport.
I'll have to have a birthday stream. My birthday is June 20th, and I was hoping for a tournament that day, but we'll just do.
Dude, let's do it.
Some hangout online content.
Wait, I want to read this from Braxton. Met Chris at a tour stop in Raleigh back in 2018, and I think the dude was so nice. This young intermediate player. Then I see his stuff blowing up. Awesome to see y'all top players showing love to the less experienced players. Oh, sorry, yes, way. I went
You're
away
good.
for a second.
You're back.
Click something. More content. Nora, stop spamming. We're gonna get banned.
Nightbot said, "Peace."
Yeah, Braxton, that's such a great that's just such a great point. Like, I think like that is one thing we talked about our community so much. Like we just have some awesome top players, and Chris Hornacek is just a bowl of personality, and he is so welcoming. And if you guys don't know, like, he will go around to schools, not just in Illinois, but all over the country, and he'll like play with these kids, and it's genuine passion. So like stories like that are Nightbot needs to chill. Night Bob.
Logan started calling Nightbot Night Bob, and I just lose it every time. Like, all because so for the Spike at Home series, for those of you that haven't tuned in, which you should watch on our YouTube channel, all of the SRA YouTube channel, all the streams are posted there. We've had to stream test with Logan, like, audio issues for the past like 6 weeks, and he just keeps calling it Night Bob, and I lose it. It's so funny. Why? Amazing. I don't know. Well, anyways, side note.
That's definitely a new thing. More Spike content. Yes, agreed completely. But we've been on for way too long. I'm sure my girlfriend is livid at me. So we're gonna end the stream now. Thank you guys so much. Little plugs, obviously, if you guys haven't already followed this stream, please do that. We're going to do this more and more, and Gasaway has been the king at producing content. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my team's Instagram is there, Venom Roundnet. Or if you want to follow me personally, that's at Dylan_Fogarty. We will be doing a lot of content creation, like I said, in the future. Especially if June's canceled. I'm gonna start to ramp it up more, and then Gasaway and I are gonna do this more and more because we love it.
This stream should be posted on. I'm not sure exactly where I'm gonna post it. Maybe I post it on SRA's YouTube channel Unlisted, or I could post it on my YouTube channel. It will be posted somewhere because Twitch won't save it because I'm not affiliate or not partner or anything. I just have an account to stream for fun. But maybe
you're not partnered yet.
Well, that's the thing. I was just about to say, like, maybe I make a Gasaway Roundnet content channel specifically because I used to shiny hunt in Pokemon, and I think that's what I'll try to kind of keep this channel as. But like, we had this idea pretty quick, and we were like, hey, let's go live. So we're like, okay, or maybe Dylan, we go live on your channel if June's canceled. Who knows?
Maybe
we'll
I
see.
Start a channel. What do you think, chat? Do you want to listen to me ramble about the good old days of Roundnet?
The good old days.
Because I think the only person that would truly enjoy that is probably me. If I'm being honest.
Do it for yourself. Anyways, it'll be posted somewhere. Well, but maybe you'll post a link or something in your Instagram story or something. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it from us until probably next week, I'll be honest. So thank you guys so much for coming out. I appreciate it. Jason Small, I think that's what your name was. You are going to be getting a brand new COVID-19 USA Spike Ball sets.
Yes.
So
message me.
Look forward to that. Every stream, guys, I'm going to try and think of something to give away just because I want to give you guys something away for being here and for interacting and for just being a part of the community. I really so much. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to leave now. Andrew, thank you so much for doing this with me. I appreciate you, bro. And we'll do this again, okay?
Yep. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.